Yo, what's going on, Myles?
Yo, Brian, what up? Happy Friday, first of the month.
Yeah.
Do you have that over there? Pinch punch first of the month. Do they do that?
Dude, do you just sit around all week making shit up for Friday's shows? Come on.
No, this is a genuine thing. In the UK, I heard it from an ex-colleague yesterday when I was in London. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that when I was a kid. Because she was talking about her kids say it. There was a thing in school where it was the first day of the month. People would pinch and then punch you, and they go pinch punch first of the month.
Oh my God.
And if they go and no returns, it means you can't punch them back. So you got to get it in there quick.
Do you do that for punch buggies? Like punch buggy no returns? Because we do that.
I don't know what that. Or maybe that's something similar.
It's just like when you're driving along and you see a Volkswagen Bug and you punch the other person in the car next to you, which is always fun when you punch a driver who's trying not to steer the car off the road.
Because it's not as if they're handling heavy machinery or anything and got your lives in their hands. So that's. I like playing it with pilots on aircraft.
There's no worries for the rest of your days.
We did actually. I was in a band at uni, and they had a game of yellow car, and every time whoever saw a yellow car first got to punch whoever it was. I just love all these punching games. Just it's
aren't we so nice to our friends?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, man. Let's get the show started. We got a lot to talk about.
Have we?
Let's go. This is PSVR GameScast Live. We film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and 2 Eyes Friday right here on YouTube. We do it live at 6 p.m. Eastern for your viewing pleasure. But don't worry, we also care about your oral pleasure. Although all of those people are definitely missing out on Myles' visual gag right now. And that's why you can check us out on podcast services of your choice. My name is Bryan Paul from this channel right here, PSVR Without Parole. Although I just spent so much time on Between Realities that I don't know where I belong anymore. And with me, as always, every Friday, it's Myles Dyer from youtube.com/Myles. Are you swimming? What is happening?
I don't know. I guess I was swimming. I am currently in the metaverse, Brian. And I read I don't know if you heard, but there's been an IGN article this week. And,
I haven't heard. What did they say?
Well, they just said PSVR2 is going through some difficulties, and so I just jumped into the Quest Free Club.
Wait. Are you saying there's negative press about PSVR? That just doesn't sound right, man. Like that, there's been ever since launch. There's been even before launch, nothing but positive things people have said about PSVR2.
Yeah. It seems that there's just a tad bit of negativity. But I've just seen what the show's called, actually. So what a coincidence. I guess we're going to be talking about some of that.
Okay. I guess we could.
It's like we've planned it. It's like we've planned the show.
Yeah. Shout out to Izzard for joining us over here as a member with the level 1 membership. Also, shout out to I Want to Talk to Samson with the 143 VR $2 tip. I don't think that came out the way it was supposed to. He said, double duty, so much Brian, great Friday. See, this is the difference between Good Friday and Great Friday. I'm walking a dangerous line here. This is like when John Lennon said Beatles were bigger than Jesus. So let's not go any further with that. It's not what I mean. It's not what I mean. Dude, if you've been tuning in to the VR worlds for the last hour or two, man, this really is too much Brian. I think it's too much Brian for me and too much Brian for you guys. So if you decide to go do something else for the next couple hours and check this out tomorrow when your Brian meter is running low, I totally understand.
No such thing.
What's going on, Myles? Where are you? You're in the room with 3 doors again.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'll go in and be another adventure. I'm still at my parents'. Keep popping home every so often, but basically the kitchen project is taking over the house because to fix some of the pipes in the ceiling, it required going into my bedroom and ripping up the floor. So just basically my home is just like a complete construction site. Still at my parents, still enjoying my mum's lovely cooking, having a good time. And actually, in terms of the headset I've got, I've mentioned this on various social media and also on my Wednesday show, but just so all Gamecats know, I'm currently on the job market at the moment looking for work, as unfortunately many people seem to be at the moment this year. It's been an absolutely disastrous start to 2024 with a lot of mass layoffs and that. And one of the first people to reach out to me when I announced I was made redundant. Redundant, by the way, is a completely British thing, because you don't say that when people get let go, do you? We say redundant, which is just on face value a terrible word, like you're no longer needed. But it's a very common.
I think we say that over here.
Oh, you do say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, listen, the lines between different countries are getting blurred more and more, as communication increases and so I do think that maybe even if it's only used as a British thing, it's something that we've heard a lot over here because of, whenever a bunch of people get laid off, like 900 people, they try to not make it seem like they got fired. They try to make it seem like, oh, their jobs became redundant, which is like a nicer way of saying you're fired.
It's all corporate euphemism and stuff like that. Yeah. So anyway, within the hour, I got a message from Jörg Tittel, who is the director and I think the founder of Rapid Eye Movers, who did The Last Worker and also C Smash VRS. And he said, like, give me a call. And I gave him a call and had a really good conversation with him. And he mentioned that he'd thought about reaching out to me previously, but obviously in my current situation, he thought there's a good opportunity. And so I met up with the guys at Rapid Eye Movers. And so I'm doing a couple of days a week for them now, working for them, helping with their content strategy. Because for those that don't know, C Smash VRS is coming to Quest on April 4th, which I welcome because I think it's a great game. It's good to see it get introduced to a whole new audience. And I think that's something we're going to be talking about in the big conversation on this. And it also makes me feel a little less conflicted because I told him from the get-go, which is I've always kind of wanted to stay away from working for VR companies because I like having the editorial freedom on Without Parole and also on my Let's Plays and stuff. And they said, oh, but we're not going to tell you to, say good things necessarily about our game. And I was like, I know that you're not, but that doesn't stop from the fact that when I have conversations about games, that will always be in mind. And so the best thing I can do is at least just put it out there and say, I'm working with Rapid Eye Movers. The reason I'm doing it is because I actually believe in their philosophy. The game C Smash VRS, although many people will just look at it on face value as a sort of a quirky sports game, it is a game that is kind of about getting rid of toxicity in sort of multiplayer because there's no in-game voice chat. It's all about fitness and accessibility. And it's just a lot of things I really buy in. So I don't know how long I'm going to be working with them for, but it's just kind of something short-term at the moment, but a really good team. And that's why I've got the headset, because I've got the build for the MetaQuest version. And it's cool playing it without the strap behind you and being able to play it anywhere, but it still looks better on the PSVR2 headset.
And I'm gonna have to double down on all my negativity towards C Smash just to make up for all of Miles's newfound positivity. I was like, oh yeah, no voice chat. We're trying to eliminate toxicity. It's not a bug. It's a feature.
Right.
All right, I get that off my chest.
That is going to,
yeah.
But something that is going to be saying that is going to be disappointing about the MetaQuest launch is it's not going to have crossplay day on with PSVR2, and it is something they want to do. But it's just an investment, and so if it does well on MetaQuest, which I'm sure it will do, then they could actually look at in the next phase of adding crossplay. Because I've seen it happen with games like Knock when they brought in crossplay, and other games like even the games we talk about, the squeakers like Among Us VR. And again, I think this is going to be a big conversation we have later on, which is when it comes to exclusives, VR, it's a lot harder when it comes to multiplayer games. You actually want games to have crossplay, so you have as many people playing it as possible. It's going to be cool to see, and it's also given me a perspective on game development and stuff that I haven't had firsthand before, which has been very interesting to see. But that's kind of my update for the week, because I'm going to ask you now what you've been playing. The answer for what I've been playing is a bit of C Smash capturing footage, but I've really not been playing a lot else. I've not even been playing Helldiver just because I've not fancied it.
Wait. You stopped playing Helldivers? Is that what you said?
I just didn't. I've not been feeling particularly 100% this week, and so I've not really had an appetite for gaming and stuff, which is a weird thing to say. So yeah, even Helldivers, I didn't stomach. So yeah.
Okay, all right. And you were playing a lot of Helldivers there for a minute too. So
yeah, the previous couple of weeks. Yeah. What have you been playing, Brian? You've had a lot going on. You've had a lot of reviews coming out. It's been great to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely, put out a review for The Wizards, Dark Times Brotherhood, which was started off fine and then became kind of a dumpster fire by the end. I was like, wow, this game's just not good. And then, introduced Brian Bites. We did with Train Chase, and so that's a new format for me to be able to get my thoughts out there. And then I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Reactor Fusion. That Brian Bite will be out, God, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Just because I got PSVR this week that I'm working on as well. But dude, Rainbow Reactor Fusion, I gotta say, people are gonna dismiss it and be like, "Oh, it's a mobile game." Right? It's like this match 3 mobile game, and like, oh, we don't need this kind of stuff in VR. Became surprisingly fun the more I played it. It's you walk in there, you actually have like full locomotion. You walk around this reactor, and it's running at high resolution, so it looks nice, crisp, and clear. The frame rate's awesome, and then and you're kind of like. You're obviously doing these like, again, match 3 puzzle games with so you actually grab these rainbow balls and like throw them into the grid. But outside of that, there's an actual game to play. Like there's actually like this exploration thing where you're trying to unlock more parts of the reactor, and it becomes like almost like a little mini Metroidvania where you can buy a wrench, and then suddenly you can like unscrew these areas that were blocking you up before, or you get an axe and you like chop up these boxes that were in your way before. And a lot of that stuff is clunky, but it's there. And for like a $12-13 game, I'm like, this is actually way more fun than I thought it was. And so yeah, 2 out of 3 paws.
There we go. It's the new pause system we got going there.
It is because as we all know, Myles, the perfect cat has 3 paws.
I was about to ask
clearly
about that, yeah.
Clearly. Anyway, I find that hilarious. In the chat, guys, we got oops, that's not what I meant to do. We got J-Mine, the Metal Game Panther with the level 3 membership, says PSVR2 without Parole is girthier than Jesus. I mean, I don't know. Tell him to come over. We can do a comparison. I don't want to promise anything, Killers1, the Dreamweaver Gamecat with the $5 tip, says happy Friday. And to you as well, sir. I will be finishing up my artwork for the meetup today. Woohoo! Gonna try out Contractors Showdown open beta today on my Quest 3. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Contractors, Myles, but which you have a Quest 3, so you can check it out. It's a a battle royale game, and I'm a big fan of battle royales. I think you are too.
I am indeed, Brian. So that already has piqued my interest.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Gamecat Andrew Aaron Reich with the $2 tip says can't spell ignorant without IGN. Man, I wish without Parole had such a catchy catchphrase. Dreamcastic channel with the $5 tip says Valve makes one game in 5 years for their $1,000 index, but I've never seen an article saying they abandoned it. They rely on third-party devs. Why can't PlayStation? Yeah. I mean,
I think another big theme today is about expectations. It's Sony, in this case, gets beaten down based on people's expectations, not by what they're actually doing. It's, we expected this from them and they didn't do it, so it must be failing.
Right.
When it's like, no, you don't sell a product based on people's expectations. Expectations comes into the marketing and that, but you sell based on the reality. You do your marketing strategy based on the reality. And by the way, there are lots of problems with the marketing and stuff like that. But my point is, there's just so much of this. And we've even fallen victim to it in the past about what we expect and would like to see. But at the end of the day, you've got to just look at the reality and look at how the gaming industry is at the moment.
It's true.
But yeah,
it's true. There's so many different angles, so many different ways to look at this. And it just sucks that, clearly this is the main topic of the show today. And we're going to get there. Just our mission is to present I think a really logical side of the argument and the state of VR and the state of PSVR2 specifically. And I think it's just too easy to twist things, make it sound negative, and get a lot of clicks. And I feel like you can say the same thing. You can, like, one person can say the facts and another person can say the facts, and both come to two different conclusions and have two different ways of saying it and presenting those facts. And I think today we're going to show you the difference between those two ways of discussing things.
That's exactly it. It's this is not to dispute facts. It's actually to dispute analysis. And analysis is what you rely on journalists often to do. They do report the facts, and those are the very dry journalists, which are very important. That go, here are the facts, and that's it. And then when you've got people reporting and giving analysis, that's where there's discussion and debate. And actually, just going back to one of the previous tips about the Gamecat Meetup, this week, literally 2-3 days ago, I booked my flights and Airbnb for Boston. So it's now like
we did it.
To that point, I was just I know. It's actually happening now. Yeah. Like I'm coming out, and I just want to say a massive thank you once more to everyone that's been donating to the GoFundMe and that, because that's supporting Wes, AJ, and I to be able to get that. And this community is amazing. I can't wait to meet everyone. And I've been looking at the agenda that we have, the schedule with who's going to be at PAX East, and I can't remember the company off the top of my head, but there is a AI gaming company that has this smell machine that, based on what happens in game, it creates scents of like gunshots, or I think they've got a blood one that isn't out yet, but I don't know if you want the smell in your room of blood. But we've got to definitely check it out, because it's not just for VR. But like I had an idea like a month or two ago, saying, when the VR companies do their little packages, for influencers and that, to promote the game, they have T-shirts and that. I wish they had like a candle with a scent, so that you could like have the scent of the game as you were playing it. But then I thought, that's a really bad idea. You don't want people lighting a candle while they've got a headset on, right, and going, oh, the smell of burning is really fierce, and you take the headset off and like the room's burning down. But like having a machine like this, that's an interesting piece of tech. So I'm kind of really excited to learn about that when I'm there. So that's a small little thing I noticed on the schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Kind of Funny's going to be there. I don't know if GameScoop's going to be there again, but man, just like being able to go and check out some of those guys' live shows, I think will be a lot of fun. The panel rooms. I mean, listen, am I bummed that we don't get to do an episode of GamesCast live from PAX? Yes, I am. However, this just means one less thing that I have to worry about, and we can go and just like enjoy this stuff together. Like, and go check out other panel rooms, because every day, dude, there's like 10 things happening every 15 minutes, it feels like. And so it doesn't matter what day you get there. It doesn't matter like what's happening. The show floor should be the same all 4 days for the most part.
Yeah. And it's not just like it slowly warms up all, right, 4 days. They're just packed with stuff going on.
Exactly. And so the panel rooms are what make each day different. And the panel rooms are around the perimeter of the show floor. And like, that's like, I think, where the exciting stuff happens. And so it's gonna be really great to get to do that as a group, and we can kind of pair off and go, well, I want to go do this, well, I want to do this, and then like we just kind of separate into groups and meet back and get drunk. Not me, but I mean, I'll hang out with you guys while you get drunk. Also, by the way, the Kill Artist tip, I did definitely glossed over. He said, I'm finishing up my artwork for the meetup. I'm like, we had some talented cats out there, man. And like, I think he said it's going to be a surprise. So interested to see what that's all about. March 21st to the 24th, I believe. Is that right? 21st to the 24th. Is that PAX?
That's correct.
So make sure you come hang out with us. I don't go out in public. This is a big deal for me. Right? Like I've been really like, I've been really kind of secluded in my apartment for the last few years. And dude, I went out to the gym last night. It was like 11 o'clock. I was like, I think it's probably safe to go now. There's not going to be anybody there. It's 11 o'clock. First of all, wrong. That's not the case. And also, dude, it took me like an hour to go to the gym. It's like it's 5 minutes down the road. It took me an hour because my brain kept making up excuses to be like, oh, you should probably clean up this place and take the trash out. Oh, you should probably clean the litter box. You should probably do this. You should probably do that. Well, don't forget to take a shower before you go, because you don't make sure you don't, smell before you get. I mean, it's amazing what your brain will do to convince you to stay home and not do the thing that you need to do. Like,
especially when it comes to going to the gym, dude. I think that's a very common thing with people that are trying to go to the gym.
Yeah.
It's very easy to make excuses and go, I could just... That's what procrastination is. You're like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later.
How common is having a panic attack in the parking lot, being like, oh my God, I just don't go out, man. I don't go out, and I didn't realize like how bad things had gotten in my brain. That like I was having a panic attack because I had to go like stand on a treadmill next to somebody. It's like, whew, right, man. So anyway, this is me. This is me preparing.
You burn calories with a panic attack.
Good, right. Good. Then maybe I burned a few extra because, but this is me preparing for PAX because I'm like, it is time, man. It is time to leave my apartment, get back out there in the world, meet you guys, right, and just be able to do this and have fun. And so I got these are the steps I'm taking in my personal life, which I'm making very public for some unknown reason. To just get out there and be part of PAX East. So if anybody thinks that I'm just like, oh, whatever, it's no big deal. No, it's a big deal for me specifically. But it's going to be, and hopefully it means that the actual event is just going to be even more fun.
That's awesome, man. And I'm proud of you because it is incredibly difficult when it comes to social anxiety, and especially with things like this, and obviously the context in which you do this show, you're dealing with all these people, and then actually going to be there. Like, even if you didn't have social anxiety, it'd be something that you would be thinking about, worrying about. You want it to be a good time for everyone, and the reality is we're all there to make it a good time for each other, and it is going to be great. And on a personal note from me, until I put the money down for my Airbnb and flights, because of the context of what's happened with me this year, obviously I've got this kitchen work getting done. I just thought I was like, I'd rather not spend the money and go out there. But speaking to my best mate, and he was like, dude, if you didn't go, you would so be regretting it once it happens. And also when you go out there, it will just be a good emotional reset. Like, while I am in this sort of transitional part of my life, going out there, meeting the people that have been a big part of my life the last 2 years, this amazing community, and also sort of engaging with the gaming industry, it's going to be amazing. And on top of that, obviously the GoFundMe is going to be subsidizing my trip. Again, massive thank you to everyone that's been a part of it, because it's not something expected, and I've genuinely been blown away by the response from everyone. So I just want people to know that quite opposite. I do not take this community for granted. It means the world to me, and support comes in all sorts of ways, and that's just one of the many ways that this community fucking rocks.
And I think just to piggyback on that a little bit, as AJ and Wes and you are all like, finally pulling the trigger on flights in hotel rooms and all that. I think we're seeing just how expensive it really is. And the $3,000 raised on the GoFundMe is gone. Like, it is already in, like, and there's still, so, I'm not taking any of this because, this is my channel, it's like, you guys, I need you guys to make sure that you have all the support you need, and you get, and as much of your costs are covered as possible. So, I believe if we can coordinate it, we'll be doing a fundraising stream, which is like a massive hangout, 4 of us doing an AMA. And then we just really want to get that GoFundMe, from like the $3,000 point where it is now to the $5,000 point, just so these guys aren't breaking the bank in order to come and be part of the meetup. And so stay tuned for that. We'll be hopefully doing it this weekend, but clearly very soon, if not, because we're running out of time. So just want to say thank you in advance to everybody who donates. All right, Myles. That's what we've been playing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, man. I saw the announcement today for the Daft Punk DLC coming to Beat Saber, and in my head, I said, "There's a lot of people out there that are going to be excited for this," because every time a new Beat Saber DLC comes out, it always brings up the topic of, well, what DLC do you want?
Right?
Like it's less about like what are we actually getting, and it's more like what do we want for the future. But when I saw the Daft Punk announcement, I was like, this is big for a lot of people. This was on a lot of people's wish lists. And so, congratulations to everybody who's getting what they want. Where's My Chemical Romance pack beat games? But so happy for everyone who's getting what they want. But also, where do you fall in this? Is this a band you care about? Because it's not something I've ever really they're not something I've delved into.
So this might come as a surprise to a lot of people. If I was to sort of rate like the top 3 influential artists in my life, Daft Punk would be a top 3. Wow. Honestly, grew up with Daft Punk. It was one of those things I didn't realize how much of an impact Daft Punk had on me in terms of my love for electronic dance music. Like, they came out at a time I was very young. I wasn't mature in terms of like music as a musician per se, but one of the first times I went to one of my parents' friends who had a little recording studio in their garden, I sat on this like drum kit that was all mic'd up, and I played along to one of Daft Punk's songs on the drums. Obviously, their music's not meant to be playing, an acoustic drum kit to, but as a young kid, I did, and I remember just hitting the ride to the sound of the Daft Punk riffs, and it's interesting. They were a band or a duo that I'd always wanted to see live. I'm gutted that I'm never going to get to see them live because they called it a day. But they, I think that there is going to be artists that people have listened to, no matter what genre you're into, who would have been impacted by them, even if not directly, because they just made such a massive impression on the music industry. I mean, they did the soundtrack to Tron, the Disney, the reboot movie. They did the entire soundtrack to that. They obviously had the massive success with their latest album, with Get Lucky on it, which everyone has heard many, many times. But the original, actually, it wasn't. I don't know if it was Discovery by Daft Punk that had Celebrate, or One More Time. And it had Digital Love and a lot of these tracks. I mean, we don't actually know what the track list is. It's not going to be announced until it comes out at launch. But I assume it's going to be a lot of the classics, and I think that it's going to be one of those, because I remember you commenting on other DLCs, and actually I've been the same, which is you're always like, I'm going to see where I am with this artist, and then when you play him, you're like, actually, I really, really like this. I think this is going to be one of the DLCs that really makes people go, I remember now. I know Daft Punk, and like it kind of brings home like what a massive artist they are. But saying all that, the last thing I'll say was having a Daft Punk DLC was never a wish list thing. Like, Daft Punk has never been a thing I explicitly think I want everywhere. They've just been a very important part of my life. But seeing it pop up, it was kind of like, why didn't I think about this before? I'm just really, really, really excited for this.
That's great to hear, man. That's great to hear. I'm only excited because, again, we've got to. It does. I didn't see who actually said it in the chat, but it just seems like a more European thing. Like, if
yeah,
like, I mean, there's certainly know people who like enjoy Daft Punk here in the States, but it seems like every time I meet somebody from the UK or the EU, it's Daft Punk is like one of their bands. Like, they just must have, and so like this gives me an excuse. This gives me an excuse to check them out, and not just check it out, and like I might check out a YouTube video or so on something on Spotify or Amazon Music, right? Where I listen to something for like 30 seconds and go, Beat Saber forces you to listen to a song and listen to it again and again and again and again if you want to get good at it. And that's really the only way, I think, if you really enjoy something, if you like let it just saturate your brain over time.
And it's not just listening to it, is it? Though you're playing it, so you're actually immersing yourself. You're dancing to it basically. So you're having a physical, like, you're physically binding with the music, which I think makes it a more personal experience. And once again, I think means you're going to like a lot more music than you would if you were just passively listening to it. There's a lot of songs on there that I probably wouldn't have listened to out of choice, but playing it, I'm like, this is actually some good fun.
No, absolutely. Sorry, sirens on my end. But this is cool, man. I'm excited to get into this. And also, I just need to get back into Beat Saber, period, because the last few track packs I bought, downloaded, and then played like just a little bit of, right? I haven't really given it the full Beat Saber experience, and I need that to change because I really do love this game.
The last thing I'd say on this story is Upload VR reported with this that the final 2 original co-founders of Beat Saber left just the last couple of days, which I thought it's one of those things of it's interesting. People go eventually, but I think Yaroslav, who was like the key founder, who obviously wrote a lot of the music, he left. I'm going to say like half a year ago. I'm completely lost on time, but there seems to definitely be this thing now of Beat Saber is now an established business now. Like I don't want to say there's no room for innovation. I mean, we saw the whole progression system teased like a year and a half ago now. I'm like, where the hell is that? It just seems like now that we can just keep this. We'll just keep doing music deals, keep creating the levels, and it's my biggest disappointment with Beat Saber. I think there's so much room for the multiplayer and like different modes. And it's been a shame to see like the core gameplay. They've obviously added the different note types, which has been good. But I feel like it's time to innovate the game in terms of its functionality.
See, I don't even think it's about that. I was talking to Elvert earlier in voice chat, and he was mentioning that. I was like, oh, he's like, the other co-founder just left. And I was like, good for them, because there's nothing left for them there, right? I bet they made a fortune. They probably got like this great severance package or sold off part of the company, or constantly keep making money from the profits, right? Like whatever they decided when they left, good, because these guys made a great game. And it's time for them to go off and make another great game. Right, wherever they land now, they get to be creative again, because as you said, Beat Games, the formula is established. If Beat Saber wasn't so popular, we definitely would have seen more games from them by now. But it's so popular that they are the Beat Saber machine, and so all they do is go get licenses, map tracks, and release DLC, and that's all they ever need to do until people lose interest in Beat Saber. Which doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon, because it's constantly number one on the sales charts. So I really think it's a good thing that they left. They made a great game. It's time for them to make another great game.
Agreed.
Cool. Myles, it's time to talk about some IGN stuff.
Oh wow. Dude, it's obvious. I can speak for myself, but I'm super hyped for this conversation. There's so much to be said. I know that you and I are both fired up, and so is the community. It's going to be a good conversation. I think we're going to cover a lot of ground, and it's not just about batting away negativity. It's actually about establishing where Sony needs to improve, but also saying where things aren't going well, but it's not actually a issue with PSVR2 specifically, right? And just having a bit more of a nuanced conversation on it. But sorry, you were going to go to one of the tips, I think.
I'm just going to knock out a couple tips before we really dive deep into this conversation. Marty Dude VR with the $5 tip says, salute PSVR2 without Parole. Andrew Bailey, the audio listeners are like, why is this so quiet? Andrew Bailey with the 2 quiz says, hi, Brian and Myles. Just checking in and stuff. What's up, Andrew? Glad to see you check in.
Good to see you, Andrew. Thanks for being here.
Tanner Daniels. You know, this is so funny, man. Like we do this a lot. We do hours and hours of GAMESCAST every week. Years of it. I read out Tanner Daniels' name and I was like, I've never seen Tanner Daniels tip before. Like I've just never like in my head I was like, I bet this is the first time Tanner Daniels has tipped. And then right below the tip it says, let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. So thank you, Tanner. We popped Tanner's cherry, which is probably
welcome to the Super Chat Club.
Really not a nice thing to say. It's like a fucking weird thing to say, I think. Anyway, Tanner Daniels with the Canadian 279. Oh, he's Canadian, so he's cool with it. He says, sirens on my end, meow, t-shirt, please. Yes. Oh my God, dude. I've got so many t-shirt ideas and I just need to sit down for an entire day and sketch them out and get them printed and not get them printed, but like, make that happen. Tanner. Yes. I need an assistant. There's so much to do. Myles, this is great. What are you doing, man? Why are you popping up? Myles Dyer with the level 2 membership. Also, is that what is that an emoji of?
It's me drinking the red wine.
Oh, I thought it was you saluting.
I love that someone.
What?
Yeah. It's I had my free membership super chat, so I thought I'd use it, which everyone can use. Yeah. If you're a member, click on the super chat thing, and I think every month or something you get a free super chat. So use them. 12 months. Wow.
Fifth with the Australian $5 tip says, if you could pause reviews, etc. for a week, Brian, what game would you play?
Great question.
Well, as probably all of you know by now, my Polymega finally showed up after 2.5 years, which lets you play a lot of retro games. And I've been playing Ys Book 1 and 2, Y''S Ys, which is a TurboGrafx CD game from way back. It's been remade a bunch of times, but this is like the original. And it is like great, man. It is great. And so that's the answer. Is that like I would just spend more of my time playing that and playing some of these classic games that I've dabbled in, but have never actually finished. I feel like I've always said this. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I always go to bat for Final Fantasy VI as my favorite Final Fantasy game, but I mean, I know the first 10 hours okay, I think. Like, I don't think I know the back 40 hours very well. So, like, I would probably play that to completion and have it fresh in my memory so I could talk about that a little bit better. What about you, Myles?
What would I play this? I mean, I literally have had the time to play games this week and I haven't. But what game I'd love to go back to VR Skater and just get to the next level of just being able to grind and go onto manuals and stuff and just it's the whole thing about wanting to be able to connect the tricks, isn't it, from one thing to the other. That's the joy of it, is when you can start doing combos. So
the manuals are tough.
I will get back to it at some point. Yeah, man, really, really tough. So I'd like to go back to VR Skater and give it, and actually go for the platinum, because the platinum doesn't look that difficult. It's just a lot of I was going to say grindy, but like I think one of the trophies is you have to do a grind for like 5 kilometers. Not in one. But like there's a lot of cumulative like trophies like that. But I think that's a good game to get a platinum for. Like you would feel you've earned it. Do you know?
Yeah. Not sure, Brando with the $10 tip says, Brian, you've created something very special between this channel, Discord, and the community as a whole. I much appreciate and love everyone here. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
This is weird to promote this here, I guess. But as I started the show, I said something about Between Realities. And that was a podcast I was just on. It's Alex, VR, and Skiva. Again, like I don't really have time to like check out a lot of people's channels. I heard great things about them, and being on their show was just a lot of fun. And a lot of our conversation was about community, and it was a lot about, it was also a lot about Ghostbusters 2 and 80s television shows, but like, it really like that was a huge theme during the entire podcast. Community is just so important, and I don't think it's something you can fake. Like it's not something you can just buy. People buy subscribers, people buy likes. You can't buy a community. Like that just happens over time, and I'm sure I say it a lot, but I'm gonna say it again. Like I'm way more thankful for you guys. Being here and picking me up every day and getting me out of bed. I'm way more thankful for you guys than you are of me. I promise you that. Oh, look what you started, Myles. Albert with the level 3 membership says super chat train. Choo choo.
This is it.
Your long shadows with the level 1 membership says did not know this. Meow swipe. Much love. Awesome. There
we go. You got to use your perks, guys. If you're becoming members, you should use the perks.
The Gamecat Cowboy Dan with the level 1 membership says happy birthday, Myles. Chat working today. That's good.
Thank you.
All right, Myles, let's talk about IGN. And thank you everybody for being here, as always. Myles, I think the best way to start this is to legit just dive right in. This article got posted, I believe, 2 days ago. And
it was yesterday, I thought. Or maybe it was 2.
All my days run together. I apologize. So it was posted yesterday, and then I believe they doubled down on this by tweeting about it today. And so the article is called "A Year Since Its Release, Sony Seems to Have Abandoned PlayStation VR2." Myles,
Can I just start from there for a second?
Yeah.
The language is so important, and I'm not just talking about in articles, but people, and this isn't a criticism of this journalist, this is just how people are in life. Right. When people say like, oh, there's absolutely zero for support for something, whether you're talking about a political party or something like that, there's the assumption, well, they don't actually mean zero, but people say zero as in like not much at all. So this headline is, Sony seems to have abandoned PlayStation VR 2. Abandon has one definition, which is leave.
Right.
And we know that they aren't saying Sony is completely wiping their hands of it. They're saying that they're moving away. Abandon is not the word. And so when hyperbole and language is used, already you're kind of having a conversation where you're kind of moving the goalposts and you're kind of able to sort of have your cake and eat it. And so I just want to say that this is going to be a very common theme in this article, where there are things that are said that are a fact, and then the analysis is kind of like construing something which I think requires a lot of assumptions. And just to be clear, we're going to be making a lot of assumptions as well. But the whole point is the idea that Sony has appeared to have abandoned PlayStation VR2. We're going to go through this and see if they've made the case for it. But I want people to keep that in mind as we're going through this article, because I think abandoned is a completely irresponsible word to use for this.
Thank you. Irresponsible. That's perfect, because I was actually kind of looking for the proper word, because when I look at this headline, this seems like something like a Quest fanboy or a PC master race person would use, and just be like, in order to just like drive the stake through somebody's heart and say, yeah, it just seems like a fanboy thing to say. It doesn't sound like this. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, then you know how I feel about this already. This isn't how a games journalist should cover a story. This is a headline that some person interested in creating a console war would phrase something. Games journalists should be the ones out there telling us about things we don't know, right? About how they funded this game or funded that game, or how is Sony showing support other than releasing first-party games. These are things games journalists should be telling us, and instead, this is a games journalist telling us the same thing we've heard from people who don't know what they're talking about, just kind of echoing statements that don't really have much basis in fact. So unfortunately, I know that we live in a world that where clickbait sells, right? People aren't going to click on an article that says, "What's Sony doing to support PlayStation VR2? Let us tell you." No, they're going to say PSVR2 is dead, and now click on our article, and that's what gets clicks, unfortunately. So I understand that, but I'm sorry, this is irresponsible journalism right off the bat with the headline.
And just to say, I don't know how it works at IGN, because obviously they'll have their own editorial functionality. But in newspapers in the UK, and I think most places in the world, the people that write the articles don't choose the headlines. I often see people on Twitter saying, "Hey, I didn't choose the headline or the photo. That was, the editor that does it." And so, I don't know what is the case with Taylor Lyles, who wrote this article. And again, something I just want to say from the get-go. This is not an exercise in attacking Taylor, because actually this article, and Brian and I were talking about it beforehand, this is actually a really quite a well-written article. It's detailed. It covers a lot of ground. It does summarize the year. Our issue is going to be with the analysis and the way that some arguments are made, and that is what discussion should be about. And so we're looking forward to going through that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the tagline is Shattered Reality. All right, so Taylor Lyles starts this. She says, in 2021, Sony announced it was working on a next-generation headset. It was described as a next-gen VR system that enhances everything from resolution and field of view to tracking and input. Roughly a year later, PlayStation VR2 was officially revealed with a release date set for February 2023. I think we're good so far, right? Fast forward to just over a year after its release, and the PSVR2 has not achieved its full potential. Between its lack of first-party exclusives, steep price, lack of backwards compatibility, and retail delays, the PSVR2 has barely made a ripple in the VR market. Let's stop there. What do you got?
So there is some truth here. Let's just pick away quickly what the truth parts are. Mm-hmm. There is a steep price. Well, the lack of backwards compatibility.
But again,
yeah,
steep price compared to what?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just getting out the way. The facts are there is a steep price. There was a lack of backwards compatibility, and there have been retail delays. Lack of first-party exclusives. I think a big conversation we're going to have is the difference between first-party and exclusives. I don't think they necessarily have to be the same thing.
Right.
But the value proposition here is the PSVR2 has barely made a ripple in the VR market. Has it? It's barely made a ripple, Brian.
Well, I mean, listen, you can. I'm actually surprised they didn't say, and there's a wire attached to it, right?
Yes,
because it's a little bit ridiculous, and it's sure, there's facts here, like lack of backwards compatibility, but it's not like we haven't been getting a steady flow of PSVR1 games. A lot of them with free upgrades that look and play way better, right? So we can kind of like start pulling this apart very quickly. And talking about why, if it's such a steep price, then why have PC gamers been asking for PC compatibility for PSVR2? If it's such a steep price, it's like, well, you know why? Because it's the best priced headset with the most advanced technology. It's the best price headset you can get. So you can pull all of these apart. What's the retail delays? I didn't even click on that.
So retail delays, I haven't looked into that, but that will be the fact that when it came out, you could only buy it from PlayStation Direct.
Oh, delays getting it to on actual retail stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would, but then the opening sentence is fast forward to just over a year, and the PSVR2 has not achieved its full potential. By the way, I used to teach schools around the country about digital citizenship and about how you consume the news and the way that agendas are done. And this is a great example. That first sentence could be a positive or a negative. It's clearly negative here, the way it's framed. But the idea that it's just been over a year and PSVR2 has not achieved its full potential, I would see that as a positive, which is, well, yeah, true. I would, if it reached its full potential in just over a year, well, fuck.
Right.
This is not going good.
Also, welcome to video games, because that's how all video game consoles and headsets and technology has worked. You don't.
Yes.
The launch games never push hardware, never. And I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think so as I've already said, there's I take issue with a couple things that this article is doing, but the bigger issue than even like kind of coming across like a bit of a fanboy in the headline is that the author is holding PlayStation VR2 up to a higher standard than flat screen gaming. And you can say has not achieved its full potential between its lack of first party exclusives. Okay, so it's been a year, and again, welcome to video games, because how many exclusives did PlayStation 4 have in its first year? How many exclusives did PlayStation 5 have in its first year? And the answer is very few. If you look at the PlayStation 5, now I'm probably going to get this wrong, so please correct me in the chat, but I believe it was Demon's Souls remake from a PlayStation 3 game that got better graphics at launch, and then Ghost of Tsushima later on.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Remakes, yeah.
And then what, Gran Turismo 7? I think that might have been the first year as well. And so when you look at the first year of PlayStation VR2 and you say, well, we got a built from the ground up Call of the Mountain Horizon game, and we got hybrid support for Gran Turismo 7. And then you look and say, well, VR is only going to sell this much and PlayStation 5 is going to sell this much. You would think the disparity between the two would be even bigger, that we wouldn't even get a first party game first year, because this is only going to sell a couple million headsets at most, whereas the PlayStation 5 selling tens of millions. And so the parity is way closer than anybody should ever expect. Call of the Mountain and Gran Turismo 7, when we got, that's two first-party games. And that's not even counting. That's not even counting all the stuff that they funded. The exclusives we got because of Sony, or the third-party support that we got because of Sony. It's crazy.
Yeah, Returnal also comes to mind at launch as well. But the point is, it's not about it. It's never going to be on par with PS5, because PS5 has a bigger adoption rate. Like, it's going to have the investment. This is a small portion of the PS5 sector. The other thing I want to say as a more general point as well is, when we have conversations with people online, this is not about telling people they're wrong if they're not happy with their PSVR2. Right. The Ryan McCaffrey thing actually happened between the last time I was doing a show 2 Wednesdays ago and now. And a lot of people were amused, Bryan himself, where I actually made a kind offer to Ryan to have a conversation and go through the games he's not played yet and see what games I could find for him. And a lot of people were going, don't talk to him. He's not in good faith. And I think the fact he's not responded to me will make people have a certain judgment. But the reality is, when people come up to you and go, I'm not happy with there not being enough first parties, I would list what first parties there have been. or they're not happy with exclusives. You can list them. Don't judge the success on PSVR2 based on first parties or exclusives. Right. Judge it on the games, and that's what we're going to get to as we go through this article. If people look at the games and the games haven't been for them, then that's fine. But the idea that there haven't been a good effort of games, look at the range of launches. They weren't all ports from PSVR. They weren't all Quest ports. There was a good mix of lots of genres, lots of different games. There was a good choice, more so than when PSVR came out. So,
oh god, yeah. I mean, again, this is proof positive that Taylor, the author here, didn't live through the first year of PSVR 1, or the first year of Quest, or the first year of any headset ever made, because the support from third parties, from first party, has been overwhelming by comparison. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. The VR market is not the same as the flat screen market, period. And if you try to hold PSVR 2 up to the same standards as flat screen gaming, you're never going to be anything but disappointed, no matter how much first party support we get, no matter how many exclusives we get, because it'll never happen, right? It's just the nature of the business right now. You cannot support something that sells a couple million units the way you support something that sells 50 million units. You just can't. And again, this is something I expect to hear from a games journalist that we're not hearing here. And it drives me up the wall. Why do we have to be the voice of reason, Myles? I don't like being the voice of reason. I like to be the guy saying, "Where's BioShock?" But instead, I have to be like, "Well, here's why everything's all right." And I don't like that.
Same as me. I talk about, I'd want all these games to come, whether it's Grand Theft Auto or The Forest or Spider-Man or The Last of Us. These are all things I'd like to have, but it's just not feasible because people judge it as like PlayStation. Why aren't they doing this investment? No, it's PlayStation VR 2. There's a lot more limiting factors. There's more points I want to make on it, but we'll wait until we've made progress on this article.
All right. Next, paragraph 2. Now, amid devastating layoffs that include the closure of VR-focused PlayStation London, it seems that PSVR 2 may already be on its last legs. Here's how we got there and what the future may hold for PlayStation's troubled VR headset. Listen, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this.
They're going to go. They're going to go through these points in more detail later, but again, just the use of language. Yeah. It seems like to who? Them. And that's fine. You could say this is an opinion piece, but this is, I don't know what it's ranked as, if it's an article or an editorial or, but it's like, this is where you conflate analysis and opinion. It seems like, based on what? And we are going to go through this. And
right. So Sony, I'm sorry, Sony has like 22 first party studios. So because one closed that made a VR game in the past, this is now the end of PlayStation VR 2. The hyperbole is killing me, Myles. All right. The next headline is great hardware, not a ton of system selling games. Taylor writes, there's no denying that the PSVR 2's hardware is fantastic. OLED displays, great controllers with haptic support and eye tracking, just to name a few. Yet as I pointed out before its release last year, one of the major measures of success for the PSVR 2 is a strong showing of exclusive content, and that part has generally failed to materialize in the year since release. Take the PSVR 2's launch lineup, which featured over 40 games. It's an impressive number, but on closer inspection, only 3 of those games were PSVR 2 exclusives, and only one of those games, Horizon Call of the Mountain, went beyond an optional VR mode. Taylor's being very dismissive here, saying as if we just don't care about VR modes in games that are existent. Yet you talk to VR gamers, and that's exactly what they want. We want hybrid games. People want to experience
flat screen games in VR. I want to experience this amazing game in VR.
Right. This full-fledged, I think more people were excited that Gran Turismo 7 was fully playable in VR than they were that Horizon got an offshoot built from the ground up VR game. Right? Because VR games tend to be shorter. They tend to be mechanically less involved. Right? They don't have deep progression systems usually. But yet here we are. We got Gran Turismo 7 in all of its glory. And that's what gamers want. I mean, and there's always, I'm sure in the comments or in the chat here, people will say, well, that's not what I want. And we hear you. Trust me, the number of times I I go, oh, clearly this is what everybody wants. And then everybody's like, that's not what we want. I get it. Everybody's different. But like overwhelming majority will definitely agree with me.
And also something in this first paragraph, it was like, yeah, I pointed out before the release, one of the major measures of success for PS2 is a strong showing of exclusive content. And I would agree with that. But that's as if it's kind of saying, but isn't another measure of success having a future-proofed piece of equipment? Because it's kind of like, there's no denying that the hardware is fantastic, and named a few. But when it comes to the games, and the truth is the games are important. What's the point in having amazing hardware if there aren't a great number of games? But my point is, for the first year, there have been a great number of games, and it's clear that Sony are playing the long game. Yeah. The excellence in hardware has established a strong foundation for future content and development. I always mention this in previous conversations. When you're looking that close in red matter and things look that clear, you're like, it's going to be possible one day that everything you look at in a game is going to be that clear once the hardware, in terms of the consoles and the understanding of developers, catches up. And, this is, I think the initial focus on hardware over exclusive content is a strategic choice from PlayStation, because it allows Sony to build a robust platform before pushing a wider range of exclusives. That's the way around you do it. You don't invest in IPs and exclusives and not have the hardware and the high adoption. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know people would say, but you want both. You want great technology and all this money. And it's unfortunately VR is a slower burn of adoption because you have to experience it to believe it. I was meeting with ex-colleagues yesterday and showing them Sea Smash on the Quest 3, and a lot of them had never played VR before, and they always knew about it, but they just hadn't played it. They were gamers, but they just never done VR. This is a thing that's going to take a long time, and so and only 3 of those games were true PSVR2 exclusives.
I mean, like 3 again.
True.
3's good. Like if there were only 10 games at launch and there were 3 PSVR2 exclusives, it'd be amazing. But listen, I think Taylor's got it backwards, because think back to the N64. Think back to the GameCube. Why did Nintendo really flail during those generations? The lack of third-party support. Do you know how important third-party support is to the success of a console? It's either neck and neck or more important than first-party support. It is so important because that's where 95%, if not 99% of your games are going to come from. Third-party, because there's thousands of third-party studios out there in the world now. It's not like it used to be. It's not the hardest thing in the world to make a game anymore. You don't have to get like funding from some investor. You can just make a game in your basement if you want to, like Blair and Out is right now making lo-fi, right? Third-party support is so important. And if you don't have third-party support, you are destined for failure. So you look at these numbers and you somehow look at all this third-party support as a negative. I'm sorry, you've already lost the narrative here. Like, you're just wrong. This is where things just become wrong for me.
And this is why I went back to the thing about the difference between first party, exclusive, third parties. No, for me, it's just games. And you can argue all you want. And this was actually the back and forth I had. Or I say back and forth. It was him making a point and then me responding and not hearing anything else with Ryan McCaffrey. Right. He asked the question, how many first party exclusives have come out since launch? And I could say, I don't think there have been any. But Sony have invested in Synapse. They've invested in Resident Evil 4.
Dude, Song in the Smoke Rekindled. There are Legendary Tales.
Different ways.
Yes, absolutely.
There are different ways that you can invest in the technology. The idea that it has to just be an exclusive first party, I think that's a vanity metric of success, in my opinion. And I think that one of the reasons we're seeing a massive realignment happening in the gaming industry with mass layoffs and things like that is because games are getting more bloated in terms of how much they cost to make. Mm-hmm. And I think that as a culture, we just keep wanting to see more of these exceedingly expensive experiences. And it's not, and I think we're starting to see now that there's a reset happening because it's not sustainable. If it's not going to be sustainable on flat screen games, which is the most, widely consumed output for gaming, then why is it going to be the case with VR where it's still in its incredibly early stages? But anyway, we'll keep making progress
All right.
because I love this next paragraph.
Let's see here. There we go. By comparison, Meta has dominated the VR market for the last 5 years, not just because it does not need to be tethered to another device to function, but because it has desirable exclusives like Resident Evil 4 VR and Asgard's Wrath 2. The former, unlike PSVR2's version, is based on the 2005 original game remade from the ground up in virtual reality.
I love that that's kind of done, unlike the PSVR2. No, that's the positive. But anyway, this bit does my head in. This was a bit that really, really annoyed me because Meta has dominated the VR market for the last 5 years, not just because it doesn't need to be tethered. I would argue that the easiness of it being a standalone is a positive. I'd say standalone as opposed to tethered, which we're splitting hairs there. And also on a price point, I think it's a much more accessible consumer pick. Having now gone on a Quest 3, I'm really impressed with the Quest 3, and I think it's fucking amazing. Yeah. And it's definitely the headset that a lot of parents would buy their kids because it's like, yeah, there you go. Whereas I think people that buy PSVR 2, they're much more invested in the gaming because it's like, I've bought a PS5 and I've bought this. Like, I just feel like there's a different dynamic there. But the idea that they say, not because it's tethered, but because it has desirable exclusives like Resident Evil 4 VR and Asgard's Wrath 2. Like, I just find that absolutely, like, and the idea that, and Sony doesn't offer it, Sony hasn't dominated because it doesn't have desirable exclusives. Like, so many people bought PSVR 2 because they love racing games. They're racing sim enthusiasts. And Resident Evil 4 VR, I think, is a weird comparison. Asgard's Wrath, like, it clearly was a good game. And again, this conversation is not about going PSVR 2 is better than Meta Quest 3. Like, I actually think they're not competing directly. They're doing two different things, and I think they're both helping the VR space in different ways. So this is not a question of saying Team PSVR 2, like, but it's just about the way these comparisons are made. I find it very odd in this paragraph, and this one made me want to run up the wall.
Yeah, no, I find it odd too. All right, let's continue on. Elsewhere, third-party support for PSVR 2 has mostly been okay. Games like Supermassive's The Dark Pictures, Switchback VR, and the now defunct First Contact's Firewall Ultra were met with lukewarm receptions. That's true.
It's true. That's true.
But follow up on Switchback and be like, and now it's getting much better reception. Right? I mean, it's like if that's one of the very few examples you're going to use, for the love of God, say, and now it's better. Right. Mm-hmm. Synapse and C-Smash VRS were better received and have turned into two of its most popular games, though the latter will become a multi-platform release this April. Which
I mentioned at the start of the show, actually.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Synapse and C-Smash VRS, both exclusives that have been great. But again, it's like, it's as if you're doing a tally going, the way we're going to compare how this does is on, like, it's like you've got like the Olympics and you've got like the different events. It's like, let's have a look at the first party event and the third party. For me, it's like, yes, you can do those comparisons, but it's about an overall offering. And when gamers are looking for games, the majority of gamers are not looking for, oh, these games, not what games are right for me. It's, oh, but I want a first-party game. Like, yes, if you're wanting just to play The Last of Us VR and it's not there, you'll know that when you buy a headset. But the idea that you're looking for a breakdown of that, or it's suggesting where Sony is putting their investment, there are different ways that you can invest, and it's not just the idea of, like, just putting a load of first-party AAA games. I want that on the headset, but I don't think now is the right time until adoption picks up. And we did have first-party titles. We have had great third-party titles in the first year.
Yeah. And the fact that this article is so dismissive of ports is driving me crazy because, as I just talked about on Between Realities, these are the best ports of these games anywhere. And some of them, like Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution, by a mile. Just radically different Quest 2 to PlayStation VR 2. Radically different, like different games. Because better AI, more enemies on screen at once, just ridiculously high resolution on PSVR2. All the VRF mechanics feel better because of the haptics. I mean, just the list goes on. I would not play Retribution on a Quest 2, but it's fantastic on a PSVR 2. So, the dismissive nature of these articles saying, well, let's ignore all of the ports. No, don't ignore all the ports, because that's actually where PSVR 2 shines. It shows you the best versions of so many games that were kind of mid on other platforms. But over here, they're great.
Yeah, well, and it was actually, and it was one of the main points I did make to Ryan McCaffrey, which was titles like I'm just reading the sentence because I worded it really well at the time and I wouldn't be able to say it any better, but I said titles like Red Matter and Legendary Tales are fantastic examples of this unparalleled immersion. It's about the quality of experience as much as the games themselves. And the reality is PSVR 2, because of the headset rumble and the eye tracking and foveated rendering, and then people will sometimes move the goalpost or make legitimate criticisms going, yeah, but all the games don't take advantage of it. I completely agree, but that is room for improvement. That's not a definitive, and therefore games are never going to take advantage of it. You've got to look at the direction of travel, which is another big problem with this article. The thing at the beginning about the number of launch games, not as many as we would have liked, but we've just said, compared to PSVR, it's an improvement. That's what you judge on, is where they've improved from, not where they've not reached enough to what we wanted them to do. We all have fucking wish lists, and unfortunately, Sony doesn't design its launch or marketing based on individuals' like wants and that. They look at where were we before and how do we improve on it, and they've still got room for improvement.
Despite touting the PSVR 2 as a AAA platform, what? I'm sorry. I've seen every advertisement for PSVR 2. I've never once seen Sony say this is a AAA VR platform. But also, like, whatever. It is on PlayStation 5.
I mean, they do say feel the new real. Like, if you're talking about the hardware, but then that's not disputable. If they're saying this is where you can play all the best games, in terms of games generally, again, splitting hairs. But it's kind of like talking about perception and where it is. But yeah,
it's as if there's not just a ton of not AAA games on PlayStation 5 and Xbox and Switch. Like, most games aren't AAA. Most games aren't even single A. These days, it's hundreds of indie games for every single A game, hundreds of indie games for every AAA game. This is, again, why are we holding VR to a higher standard than flat screen gaming? It's insane. Okay, hold on. We just got to keep going here.
And also, Elbert said it really well in the chat. He goes, VR is not a AAA in general. Like, that's VR isn't a trip. Like, if you're comparing it to AAA, it's a different world.
Yeah, impossible. Absolutely impossible to. Man, I am. Despite touting PSVR 2 as a AAA platform, Sony doesn't seem interested in having its first-party studios work on VR games. What? Yep. We don't know what Sony's first-party studios are working on. There's like over 20 of them, and we don't even know what flat-screen games they're working on. Hold on. Aside from multiple unannounced games canceled by the company, some of the studios affected by the recent reduction in staff included the aforementioned London studio, which worked on two PSVR games, including Blood and Truth, while Firesprite, which developed PSVR games Air Force Special Ops Nightfall. Oh my God, that was like a experience. That was like a tech demo.
Was it?
Yeah, it was so throwaway. The Persistence, and more recently Horizon Call of the Mountain, also lost staff. Right, they didn't shut down Firesprite. They laid off people at Naughty Dog as well. Does that mean Naughty Dog's not going to make another game?
Right.
Come on, this is just getting dumb.
And also, I believe London Studio weren't even working on a VR game. They have worked on VR games, and by the way, that's not to say it's a shame. It's definitely a shame it's gone. I would have liked to have seen them do it, but it doesn't mean those projects aren't going to be picked up in different ways. Right. And as for Firesprite Studio, I mean, we don't know what's next. I mean, I have someone who works at Firesprite. They haven't told me anything specific, but they are currently going through the process that I went through in my company, which is decisions are being made internally of there has to be a cut across the board, and they have to then decide where they prioritize. So like, this is still early days. But the thing I will say is, Mystic Ryan on his Let's Talk PlayStation today mentioned that the Fire Sprite game they're working on, the horror game, is not a new IP, which means persistence could be a real. It could be other things as well, but I find that kind of exciting as well.
No,
so
absolutely.
yeah, I find look, the reason these are downsizing is not a VR exclusive problem, but it does mean there is a change of priorities in that. But that's happening with Guerrilla Games. It's happened with, as you say, Naughty Dog. It's happened with Insomniac.
We don't.
So therefore,
there's never been a word from London studios about whether there'd be VR support for their London base. Is it MMO, or was it just a fantasy RPG? I forget exactly, but that was unlikely to have VR support. And then we find out that the Twisted Metal game that got canceled was like hadn't even been greenlit yet. It was like in pre-production stages. It was like not even in the planning stages. So not nearly as far along as everybody thought it was, right? And we were like, oh man, it'd be great to have Twisted Metal in VR. That game didn't even really exist yet, right? And so, so these things coming to light mean, and again, I'm 100% with you, Myles, and I think anybody who's ever watched the show before knows how much empathy we have for game developers and people who lose their jobs, and our heart goes out to those people. But did PSVR2 lose anything in this? In during all these layoffs, did we lose any games? I don't. It seems less likely based on based on the information that came out. Whereas initially, I would have been like, oh man, we lost Twisted Metal. That would have been really cool. But like, it doesn't even sound like that game was being made yet. So anyway, again, I don't, that sounded a little bit heartless, and I do want to reiterate, our hearts go out to everybody who lost their job. We understand 900 real people with real jobs, real lives, real families lost their jobs. And it almost seems silly to talk about, oh, well, we didn't get this game because of it, right? It's like, there's much more serious stuff going on, but we are a channel that talks about games, so let's talk about games.
And it's just to say that this is irrespective of VR specifically. This is just happening in the industry as a whole, and it's too early to say. Because here's another example, and this is how the media works, and we're all guilty of it. The Last of Us were doing a live service game, and then it got cancelled. A fucking Last of Us, like Naughty Dog, top of the tier. They cancelled a game they had been teasing for years. And so what do people go? The live service plan that was... It's this whole speculation of like 12 live service games from Sony. Live service is a dead end. And then what do we get? Helldivers 2.
Right.
It's a fucking live service game. Wow, this has broken all fucking records. Right. And therefore, but like, it's live... No, the point is, markets are complicated. You can't just put all things in one basket. You can't just do a one-size-fits-all of are live service games good or bad. There are good ones, there are bad ones. There are good ways of doing it, there are toxic ways of making them. And that's the same with all this sort of stuff here. So anyway, I'm gonna...
also, who is it? Is it Arrowhead? Who's the developer of... Yeah, Arrowhead.
Arrowhead, yeah.
I did see that the Arrowhead, one of the heads of the studio, said something along the lines of like, yeah, we'll look into VR support.
They're prototyping.
Yeah. It's like that, which I mean, it's like you get a massively successful game like that. It's like we're going to see VR games from all different places we didn't expect to see them from. I never would have expected to see Helldivers as a VR game, and fingers crossed that we do. But again, it's neither here nor there, I guess. Not in the middle of this conversation. But anyway, where is the article? That's not it. I lost the article, Myles.
I can read the next bit if you want,
Please do.
Yeah, those familiar with Sony's gaming hardware ecosystem are likely realizing the similarities between PlayStation VR 2 and PlayStation Vita. Or what, that they all had PlayStation branding on it, maybe. I mean, that's just as good of a comparison. Sony's gaming handheld first released in 2011. At the time, the Vita was intended as a big budget gaming handheld but a lack of support and other issues not specifying what they are, resulted in it underperforming in comparison to the PlayStation Portable. Now it seems as if the PSVR2 is suffering the same fate. This is just, these are completely different things. They have different marketing dynamics. Like the VR market is fundamentally different from the portable gaming market. The VR market has unique growth opportunities and challenges that could see PSVR2 finding its niche and succeeding where the Vita failed. But also, there's the learning from past mistakes. Sony has the opportunity to apply what they've learned from the Vita. They don't go, the Vita happened, right, blank slate. Let's not, we learned this. No, don't think about that. This is something new. They're going to learn from Vita's life cycle. And if anything has come out of what's happening with the layoffs and the cancellation of projects, again, not taken away from what a disaster it's been for the people that work for these things. We keep hearing about how Sony is becoming increasingly risk averse. Right. And that doesn't mean that they're stopping doing stuff. They're not just going to give up on PSVR2. I could be wrong, but the announcements we had recently about PC shows that they're exploring just a year on.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. I listen, I own the Vita. I still own the Vita. I love the Vita. The Vita was great. The Vita had all sorts of problems that are not related whatsoever to PSVR2. The Vita had the biggest problem I think the Vita had, which again does not relate to PSVR2, is that it had this proprietary memory card that was ridiculously expensive, right? The same thing that would cost you $20 from SanDisk would cost you like $150 from Sony's proprietary cards. Maybe that was part of their way of recouping the losses on this powerful hardware. But guess what? It didn't. People were aware of it. And they were like, wait a minute, $300 isn't bad for the Vita, but it's going to really cost me $450 to get the memory, to get everything I want just to start, just before I even buy a game. And so I think the Vita had other problems. I thought Sony showed, actually, considering the low sales of Vita, decent support. If you haven't played Killzone Mercenary, go do it. It's great. Just kicked it off with an Uncharted game, right? So, I don't think these comparisons are one-to-one, unfortunately.
Yeah, and finally on that, Matthew Longo in the chat rightly said the Sony Portal is selling super well, to their surprise, which gets to another point that I had on my notes before the show, which was there is broader ecosystem integration, because unlike the Vita, PSVR2 is a part of the broader ecosystem with the PS5. Yeah. Which increases its longevity. The Vita, it was its own thing. So it's like you have to, it's self-concealed, isn't it?
Especially when you talk about the future of VR gaming, and a lot of it being hybrid games that you are buying on your PlayStation 5 to play flat screen, and then also have this additional functionality where you plug in your PlayStation VR2, and suddenly you're playing the game in VR. This is something you just Vita had to an extent, right? With cross-buy. Sony did their absolute best. Be like, hey, if you bought this on PlayStation 3, well, then we're going to give it to you on Vita for free. They did their best, man. But when nobody's buying it, there's only so much you can do.
Also, guys, with all this negativity that has been felt, everyone hit the like button. You'll feel better for it. I'm doing it right now. Oh, that warm, fuzzy feeling. Really good.
I just hit it. Thanks, too, everyone. But I think it canceled out from the last time I hit it. So,
listen, it cancelled out the dislike you gave it. That's what it would have done.
That's what it is. Hey, let's take a quick break from the article and talk about some of these tips.
And do some jumping jacks. Oh, okay.
I've actually got to pee. So after we read a couple tips, I might take a piss break. I forgot to pee between podcasts, and I've been drinking a lot of coffee today. My fault.
Schoolboy error.
Let's get all the way back to, is it Bonjour Miller? Is that the first one that we? Thundercat. Oh my God, dude, there's so many tips. Thundercat TGC, Brian, update the animation. Oh, dude, I did. It works. Everybody get ready for Monday, unless we forget to do Gamecat name changes. The animations, I found it. It's working. You want proof? Anybody want proof? Hold on a second. That's great. There it is. All right. You're welcome. Thundercat says, appreciate you dudes. Dude, we appreciate you as well. Bonjour Miller with the $2 tip says, RM2 is the best VR game, Red Matter 2. I hope they make Uncharted. Lots of climbing in Uncharted, which I feel like Sony would be a little gun shy at this point to allow anyone to release another first party VR game with lots of climbing. Just saying. I really do feel like we should have gotten an Uncharted VR with lots of climbing instead of a Horizon VR with lots of climbing. Anyway, thank you, Bonjour Miller. Professor Lilith with the $5 tip says, "Hey, Gamecats." Hey, Lilith. The winner of Sunday multiplayer survey is in Gran Turismo 7. Vroom, vroom, crash, crash. Join us at 2 p.m.
That's
Eastern.
horrible. It's a hybrid game. Ugh.
This Sunday.
Who wants to play hybrid games?
God damn, dude!
It's not even a proper exclusive.
I want to play just to give my racing rig some love, because it certainly isn't getting any love recently. And oh man, I felt so bad, man. I missed out on the Galaxy Kart multiplayer. It's like by the time I realized what time it was like had been over for 2 hours. God damn it. Hold on, I just want a different trailer playing. I'm so sick of this Beat Saber stuff going on here. Here's some Gran Turismo for you. Here we go. Thank you, Professor Lilith, by the way. See you guys 2 p.m. Eastern. Join our Discord if you don't know what we're talking about. Come play multiplayer games with us. Stike, the Signosis Gamecat, with the €5 says, "Ask the Legendary Tales developer if PSVR2 platform made a ripple in their wallets." Again, Sony basically sounds like Sony funded the last year of Legendary Tales, right? So not only did Sony help get Legendary Tales to PlayStation VR2, but they also got Legendary Tales out of early access on PC. You're welcome. Yes. on behalf of Sony, you're welcome, right? And also, as you guys probably saw, if you keep up to date on the PlayStation Store and you sort by best selling, Legendary Tales was number 1, number 2. I mean, just in places you don't see smaller VR games. So Legendary Tales hopefully made some money over the last month or so. We got Berbercat. What's up, Berbercat? With the level 1 membership says, "Ignorant." Capital IGN. Love it. Which, by the way, I still really enjoy a lot of content on IGN. And by a lot of content, I mean GameScoop. Shout out to Damon Hatfield. Shout out to Justin Davis. Even Sam. These guys are doing great work, right? IGN is as they've always said, is a collection of different personalities. They now have a lot of freelance people working for them, and so you really find somebody that you agree with or that you actually appreciate their opinions, and you kind of stick with them, right? Unfortunately, there's too many personalities at IGN, and so you very seldom see the person that you really identify with. Dead Ringer, the Gamecat, with the $5 tip. This is a great tip, and this is really well said. It says, if you don't like PSVR2, chances are VR in general just isn't for you. It's okay. Most of us don't play flat games anymore. Happy Friday. It's kind of true. It's kind of true. The PlayStation VR2 library is not significantly different than the Quest library. More games are rolling in. The backwards compatibility stuff, or the PSVR2 upgrades are rolling in. And I really think if you haven't found somebody on some games that jump out at you, at least a handful of games by now, then maybe it's not for you. And that's not a bad thing. That's not me being like, well, screw you. No, it's not a bad thing. You're not going to get the AAA games quite yet. You're not going to get quite the variety of games that you want quite yet. Maybe come back to it in a couple of years.
This is it. Someone asked me on Twitter earlier. They said, "Is it worth buying one for a PSVR 2?" Now, if I was just a Sony fanboy, I'd go, "Yeah, get one." And it's a personal thing. And I sort of came up with sort of 4 criteria. I said, if you meet these 4 criteria, I would strongly recommend. And it's, if you own a PS5, I think you have to own a PS5 first for it to be a recommendation to someone you don't know, because to buy a PS5 as well is expensive.
Wait, hold on. You still got 3 more things to do. So I'm going to put you full screen and I'm going to go pee. I'll be right back.
Oh, cool. All right. Have a good pee.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So I just said, if you own a PS5, if you've experienced and enjoyed VR with little discomfort, can see yourself using it as a full gaming machine, not just for occasional quick experiences, and have identified over 10 games that interest you in the catalogue. I think that's a good reason. But something else I'll go on to, guys. Hey, everyone. I'm going to give you another 10 things. I've got a wish list of what I want to see PlayStation do with PSVR2 for the next year for it to succeed. Some of these I've talked about on the show before, but I'm just going to give you this quick list, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know on Twitter at Myles Dyer. So here is my wish list, because this will also permeate with the conversation we're having today. Number 1, PlayStation needs to invest in a Blue Point Games type studio for VR, whose remit is to port popular flat screen IPs to VR. Obviously, they did Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. Number 2, they need to leverage cross-platform play to expand concurrent player base for multiplayer games. Number 3, they need a price cut to bring it under $500 to eradicate the notion that it costs more than the console it plugs into. Number 4, allow the purchase of Sense controllers separately. Number 5, there should be PS Plus monthly PSVR2 games so that people build a catalogue of PSVR2 games. So even if they haven't got the headset, they're like, oh, if I buy a PSVR2 now, I've got all these games ready to play with it. I think that would be great. Brian, I'm just doing my 10 things on my wish list for PSVR2 next year. I'm on number 6.
I shut up for 2 seconds and sirens on my end.
That's all good. Number 6, they need to expand hardware functionality with 3D movies, YouTube VR, and a social hub. Number 7, they should release one AAA first-party PSVR2 title every year, which can serve as a marketing North Star, something to look forward to at the end of every year. Number 8, release one top-tier PSVR2 exclusive each quarter. Number 9, invest in marketing and community engagement. We've all had criticisms about how they market, engage with the community through events, online forums, and social media to build excitement and loyalty. And number 10, bring PSVR2 to PC, so PC players can take advantage of the incredible hardware, and PS5 users can access top PC VR entries as well. If they do those 10 things, we're on for a solid second year. They're not going to do all those things, but if they do some of them, I'll be very, very happy. Welcome back, Brian.
Thank you very much. All right, man. Let's knock out some more of these tips. I thank you very much for allowing me to use the bathroom.
It's your human right.
Indeed. Awesome Tatum with the level 3 membership says, okay, I think it's obvious Meta paid IGN to write this BS. They probably gave them the article conspiracy. Listen, the fact that there's been so much negativity about PSVR2 when there just isn't the same level of negativity about other headsets lends a lot of credibility to your conspiracy theory. And like Meta's got more money than God, man. It's like when you've just got infinite amounts of fuck you money, you can make crazy shit happen. And I really do feel like they've made some crazy shit happen. And unfortunately, like this is just, it's kind of bullshit because we need all of these headsets to survive in order for VR to thrive. I don't think Meta can do this on their own, no matter how clearly they've thrown so much money at the problem. And it's not, they haven't taken over the world. I mean, they're certainly the best-selling headset at the moment, but that doesn't mean much. It's really easy to become the best-selling headset right now when no one's really buying VR headsets. It's the whole rising tide thing. This is not the time for console wars. This is not the time that PSVR2 sucks, or Quest 3 sucks, or PCVR sucks. It's not the time for that. It all needs to survive. 10 years down the line, let's start some console wars. That's fine. When VR is stable and secure. I've said it a multitude of times over the last 6 months. I don't think the future of VR is secure. I don't think it's guaranteed. Like I think it'll always kind of like dribble along, like it's sort of been doing. But like, we need to keep growing and keep building and be better next year than it was this year, and be better the year after that. But that's not going to happen if we all try to shut each other down.
But also, actually, even on the consoles, and I'm sure you agree with this anyway, is I don't really like the console wars on consoles. Like I want to see Microsoft succeed in the best possible way, because when Microsoft succeeds, it puts pressure on Sony not to be complacent, and vice versa. Exactly. I want Nintendo to succeed. Right. I love to see innovation and competition, and I think that's really, really important. So if there are people out there that are all like, and I get it a lot on Twitter, where I get all these people saying PSVR2 is shit, and I look at their Twitter profile and they're Xbox users, so they've never even put a headset on, so I just don't engage. And it's just like, if that is how you like to spend your energy and free time, do it. And there's actually people I've muted in the conversations on Twitter who literally all they do is just do bad energy. They're completely like nefarious in their conversations. You can do that. You can speak into the ether. I don't have time for it. It's not to say I only speak to people that agree with me. I love having discussions and disagreements, but it's got to be in good faith.
I don't even mute people anymore. I just block them and move on, because you know what? Like if you leave like this crazy negative comment on Without Parole, and I search your name on the comments and I see, oh, all you do is post negative comments, block and move on.
Right.
I'm not interested,
yeah, you
man.
Can tell.
Not interested. And people are like, wear it as a badge of pride. Well, you know what? You can be proud, but you're a fucking moron, right? Because I'm not interested. Like so many people value, we just made subscribers. No, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if I lose 95,000 subscribers. Because then the 5,000 remaining ones will be fucking awesome, and we can have a fun conversation and really enjoy each other's company. Like and just to be clear, you got to do something pretty fucking bad for me to block you. Like, I'm not just going around blocking people randomly. Now let's ride in the game feline with the $5 tip. Says, y'all are a beacon of rationality. Love this channel so much, and we love you too, Nihilus Ryan, so much. Markio, the Sleepless Night Underground Gamecat. Gifted 5 Without Parole memberships. Holy shit, Markio. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much.
Wow. How generous. So generous. Bonjour Mida with the $2 tip says, Vertical Robot should also remake The Order 1886. Bro, The Order was rough. Like, it was a pretty game, but it was rough. I played that.
I had a good time of it.
It was all right.
It was just too short.
But as a VR game.
There wasn't much to it.
As a VR game. Yeah. I think we got something there. Joe Gaslighter with the $5 tip says, I'm late. Beat Saber is VR's version of Grand Theft Auto 5, always top of the sales chart. Now GTA Online needs VR mode to beat Beat Saber. Preaching to the choir, Joe. Preaching to the choir. Chrome Colossus with the $2 tip says, go pee. Again? I know, I'm late.
Again.
Izzard with the 5 quid says, we like to defend PSVR2 against negativity, but the ball is on Sony's court to prove the detractors wrong. Their response could be better.
No, agreed. This is the thing is, none of this is, and I know you're not saying this, is it? None of this is saying Sony is off the hook. Like, we are just saying that, it's up to us to decide what we think is legitimate criticism. Our point is there is plenty to criticize on, but just be intellectually honest about it.
Right.
Right. And that's what this is about today, because there are lots of things to criticize PlayStation on. So
Sony is quietly confident, and I think that constantly comes across as superior, or the fact that they're not bothered or something. Like they're not super vocal like they once were, I definitely think that they need a swift kick in the ass, because I do believe that they've got a lot of amazing games in development, and we don't know about any of them. And why don't we know about any of them? Because Sony's not telling us about any of them, right? It would be pretty easy to shut down these detractors just by saying, "Hey, we've got this in the works, this in the works, and this in the works." But I feel like Sony's not the type of studio that says, "Well, they're just going to reveal them when they want to reveal them. They're not going to reveal them in response to some negative article." I think they're aware it's not going to move the needle much. But yes, I agree with Izzard. Sony could be doing a lot better.
Yep.
A lot better. Bonjour Mila with the $2 tip says, Uncharted would still be awesome without climbing, but it wouldn't really be Uncharted though, would it?
You need climbing.
Yeah. Agreed though. It would still be awesome, but it wouldn't feel like a complete Uncharted game without it. Grandpa's Barbecue or Gamecat with the Australian $10 tip says, question, why are there rumors VR games in early access on PC? Let's try this again. Question. I feel like Grandpa does this to me all the time. I feel like he puts in random commas or like run into. Question. Why are there rumors VR games in early access on PC getting worse looking at launch? Rumor. Quest not liking how better game. Yeah, this is okay. So Quest not liking how better looking games are on PC and PSVR2, requesting downgrade of graphics. This is interesting, okay? And like this is also me learning every single day that I do this. The rumor, the conspiracy theory about the Wizards Dark Times Brotherhood was that, hey, here it is. It's on PCVR and it's beautiful. It's running great. Everything's awesome. And then the Quest version comes out, and suddenly the PC version gets a graphics downgrade. And you know, you look at a company like Meta, and you go, oh, they've got so much money, they've got so much influence, they can pay someone to do that. But then you talk to developers, and developers will tell you that, hey, yeah, we were making this PC VR game. We made it look as good as we possibly could. And then we had to create a Quest build. And now we're going to be adding content to both. And if the games aren't similar in regards to, graphics and level design and all that, then you're essentially building a multiplayer mode for this build. And then you have to build a whole other multiplayer mode for this build. And so you actually do try to create some kind of parity between the two builds. And that does include graphical fidelity, so that they run the same, they act the same, they work the same. And so after I published my Wizards review, I was talking to a developer and said that's most likely the reason. So might not be Meta's fault. Meta might not be interfering and saying, here's money, downgrade the game. But in order to get a build up and running on other platforms and not build it from scratch, things had to become a little bit more level. So it's still Quest's fault, even though Meta didn't interfere.
It's the same when we see PS5 games that are also coming out on PS4. It's not to say they won't be better on PS5. It's just that you're still tethered to some of the limitations, and good things can still be done, but it takes a lot of resource. But yeah.
More sirens on my end. That was a long-winded attempt to explain other possibilities, Grandpa. Hopefully that worked. Always want to try to present as many sides of the argument, more sirens that I possibly can. Who knows what the truth is, but the more you know. Ding, ding, ding. Man Bear Pig Gamecat, Myles, he does exist. $2 tip says, just wanted to say I love you guys.
Super cereal.
Super cereal.
Super cereal.
I love you guys' passion. Thank you. I think we only got 3 more tips, and then we'll get back to this article, and we do have to kind of wrap it up
tipping.
Fairly soon. So, and I think we're kind of getting to the crux of the argument anyway. Kill Artist 1, the Dreamweaver Gamecat with a $10 tip. It's constant sirens. I hope no one's driving while listening to this. It says, I bought the Quest 3 at launch and didn't have anything but Assassin's Creed Nexus to play, and that was 2 weeks later than Asgard's Wrath 2, 3 months after launch. No headlines. Hold on, just scroll. No headlines saying MetaQuest 3 is being abandoned. Yeah, I mean, this is true. This is one of our biggest problems, is that there's differing standards depending on the platform you're talking about. What's good for the goose, Myles? Bonjour Miller with the $2 tip says Myles is so positive / Christian? It's sickening.
Go fuck yourself.
Well, that takes care of that. Red Rover, the effing Gamecat with the $5 tip. So funny. You are pretty positive, but don't worry. We'll beat that out of you over the next couple of years.
Oh, trust me, I've not been very positive this week.
Red Rover sent Joe Grober right over the effing Gamecat with the $5 tip. Says, so Brian, you came back from taking a pee pretty quickly. I don't think you washed your hands. No, I didn't. I let Tornado lick them clean while I was sitting on the. No, that was really disgusting. I don't have Tornado lick my hands while I'm on the toilet, or really. Anyway, Grandpa's Barbecue Gamecat with the Australian $2 tip. I definitely wash my hands, or I wouldn't be putting fingers in my eyes. $2 tip says, appreciate the explanation, Brian. I hope it sounded really jumbled when I said it out loud. So I hope it was understandable. Fifth with the Australian $2 tip says, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on AJ's Twitch channel. Good. AJ's abandoned VR. You guys heard it here first. Myles, how much more of this article do we possibly have to go?
There's still quite a bit, but we'll get through it. The bit we're coming up to is the bit I've got the biggest contention with that made me lose my shit over it.
Well, then let's tackle that, and and then like maybe we'll quickly read through the rest of the article.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I got to get all the way back down to where we were. I don't know how I lost it. Is it abandoned by its creator? Is that it?
Yeah, abandoned by its creator. So 1 year later, PSVR2's first-party support leaves a lot to be desired. While Horizon Call of the Mountain was a great launch game, Sony's lack of interest in making first-party games is noticeable, not just to the media, but also to the players who shelled out $550 for a headset, only for it to collect dust, which the collect dust thing has definitely been spurred by one person. We'll get to that in a minute. Has collect dust within a year or so of buying it. An ongoing theme on X/Twitter shows the frustration of PSVR2 owners for wasting money on a headset that not even Sony appears interested in giving the time of day. So firstly, the reality is there's a lot of people that have been very frustrated with it, and I'm not going to take that away from them. Like, if they've invested a lot of money, it's their right to. They shouldn't be forced to play something they've bought. If they're not enjoying it, that's a real shame. And so what this article does is it gives a few examples of tweets. So someone says, Splashbang OW says, Sony release PSVR, forget to develop enough games for it. Also Sony develops PSVR 2, but forget that they don't have any games for it. Sony, let's release PSVR 2 for the PC since we have no games for it ourselves, and hope some clueless PC gamers buys it when we finally get around to releasing our VR titles in a few years' time. Ponies wonder why Sony is not doing great right now.
Whoa, okay, so hold on. I'm sorry. So, to defend the points you made in your article, you use a tweet from someone who used the term ponies. I'm sorry, like, fucking ridiculous.
Well, it gets better, because next up we've got a Mr. Ryan McCaffrey. Sorry, I didn't want to spit. Ryan, so this was actually what made me tweet about this article last night, because I just got back from a very long day in the city. I was waiting for my train, and I had a couple to drink. And I saw
no excuses,
that
Myles. Stand behind your decision.
No. Drunk words speak sober thoughts. To be honest, I was surprised when I woke up this morning, and it turned out that I hadn't actually misstepped what I said. But yeah, it's got the Ryan McCaffrey bit about him. Exactly 1 year ago, I wasted $597.43, including sales tax. Great hardware with almost zero Sony support. Goes back to what I said about the top of the article. Great hardware with almost zero. It's not almost zero. It's no fucking where near zero Sony support. But again, what does language matter when you're a fucking journalist, a senior journalist for a big media organisation? That's what annoys me. This isn't just some random. This is Ryan McCaffrey, who I've seen a lot of promise when he spoke about GT7. And yeah, it's a real shame. He goes, I know the PSVR 2 stands will come for me again. But it's been, as in, there'll be people that disagree, but it's been mostly ports of VR games I can play on PC VR. And that's why I respond to him going, but if they're better ports of what you can play on PC VR, then that's a good thing. It's the best way of playing those games.
And how many people don't have PCs or Quests? This is the only way they're going to play those games. It's great third-party support that you're somehow twisting and making into a bad thing. Dude, and again, the language, PSVR 2 stands, that's so fucking dismissive.
Yep.
So fucking dismissive. Sorry, people. I'm just going to ignore all the people who actually like PSVR 2. Well, maybe those are the people you should be listening to and saying, what games are you playing? Instead of just dismissing them and calling them stands. Man, Ryan McCaffrey.
And my biggest problem with him including this is, by the way, the question, has there been a single first party released after day one? We've already gone through this. There hasn't been, but like, is that how you value success? You know, he's literally just waiting for first party releases. If that's his reason for buying it, fair enough, but that's not why I think it's a good headset.
A specific request. Yes. Like,
correct, which is like, that's what means it's a good title or not. It's just, it's like, no.
Right, dude.
But the reason
it's, you can arguably Village and RE4, which again, 100% only exist because Sony funded them. Capcom's not just giving us free versions free VR versions of those games out of the goodness of their heart. Sony paid for those to happen, and to just dismiss those and say, oh, well, no first party. These are as good as a first party Sony game. In my book, better in certain regards. And just dismiss them and say they're not specifically first party, even though the first party paid for them to happen and they wouldn't exist otherwise. It's mind numbing.
So the first tweet we had was someone twisting the positive of them looking to PSVR, which everyone was asking. A lot of people were asking for. They're doing it, and now people are twisting it. You've now got Ryan McCaffrey, who works for IGN, who did it, and it was the one tweet that did not include any response. And my tweet last night was saying, "Isn't it interesting they only include the negative replies to these tweets, no positive case?" Because the top reply to Ryan was my response, which was just making a good faith saying, I'm happy to have a chat with you sometime, go through some of the games and find ones that you would prefer. And it's like that's not been included. And look, this is not me saying, oh, the article would be better if it included me. I'm just talking about balance of tone, because then it's got here, somehow I'm not surprised the PSVR2 isn't selling well, a $550 accessory for a $500 console you can't get anywhere, where most of the games are ports of last-gen games, not interesting people, ? How shocking. It had 3 likes. This is mainstream media 101. They take a tweet. They do it all the time. They go, have you heard this person that says their local school is run by aliens? And it's like someone that's got like 2 followers and that, and they just have to take that one tweet and they can do a story. They go, I can't believe people think like that there's fucking aliens at their school. It was just a tweet that you've used to support your agenda. Yep. You're always going to lose the argument if your article is being... Look, my favourite saying when it comes to media is the plural of anecdote is not data.
Yeah.
It's not. So the final one they got is, they've got Nafi. Would you still recommend people buy a PSVR2 a year after launch? It was a fair question. And they've included someone that said, nope, weak level support plus PlayStation is already signalling the end of the PS5. And the cost is pretty steep for what it is. I mean, again, this is not to say people can't say that they feel...
PlayStation is already signaling the end of PS5. How poorly can you misread things? to say that already signaling the end. You mean the fact that they kind of casually mentioned that we're like, almost halfway through a console generation, which you could do just by seeing the release date of the PlayStation 5 itself? I mean, Jesus. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry. I the 8 morons that agreed with you, David Hundley, I feel sorry for, because it just means you're gonna find that you're gonna twist everything to be negative all the fucking time. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, the cost is steep. Yeah. But not for what it is. Yeah. The cost is steep, but not for what it is. So you get half of that statement correct, David, which means you get a 12% out of 100 for your tweet. Thank you for playing.
Yeah. I just want to respond to something in the chat, because this is a bit of a wider point. Awesome Tatum, who I adore. Awesome Tatum, so this isn't an attack on you. He says, Ryan doesn't care, Myles. It's an IG employee to pay him and get clicks for negative publicity. One of the most responses I got to my response to Ryan was, Ryan doesn't care. He's not a good actor. Why are you even wasting your time? And actually, for my tweets last night about the IGN article, people going, don't give him the time of day. No, you do give him the time of day. For Ryan, everyone was just like criticizing, saying, oh, he's been nefarious and stuff, which is fine. You can do that. Yep. That's going to appeal to certain sorts of people. I just gave a good faith opening, because him not responding exposes what most people suspect. But it's to give another angle. And the reason that we should respond to these IGN articles, it's not about changing IGN. I mean, if they do and they bring us on and have a different perspective, great. It's about challenging the narrative that other consumers out there are doing. And also, in some ways, it's arming you guys with the talking points, if we call it that. So when you have the conversations out there, you can, we're having a discussion about it, and we can think about, where has Sony failed and where has it succeeded. So I do think it is important to engage with these companies, because if we don't, it creates a vacuum that just gets filled with more of these tweet quotes, which are bullshit. Right, we'll carry on, shall we, Brian? I'll read the
Myles, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Like I feel like we've covered a lot of points. We're halfway through the article. I feel like we're just going to end up repeating ourselves a lot. Are there specific lines or specific points that you want to make remaining?
Well, I will read just the first bit of this next paragraph because it goes into a lot of stuff. But they just said the lack of AAA support in VR is a recurring issue in the market, with few developers willing to make VR-focused versions of their best games. One of the handful of publishers to make the leap is Ubisoft, but during a recent earnings call, it said it had no plans to increase investment in VR following the disappointment sales of the Assassin's Creed Nexus VR, which launched exclusively on MetaQuest headsets last year. After all the enthusiasm for Half-Life Alyx, the anticipated wave of big-budget VR releases has failed to materialise. But that's not a PlayStation VR specific thing. This is about expectations.
All they're doing is saying, ignore everything we just said. This has nothing to. The article thus far has nothing to do with PSVR2. That's exactly what that paragraph says. It says this is a massive problem in the industry and not specific to PSVR2. So everything I've written so far is null and void. That's what it reads. That's how it reads to me.
Yeah. There's a couple more paragraphs towards the end I'd read. It would say it would explain why the COO of Rec Room, a VR game that was reported in 2022 of having over 3 million active users, said during an Ask Me Anything on Reddit weeks ago that the team could not justify porting the game on PSVR2. That is a fair criticism. That is something that I thought was quite a shame and alarming, but that's an individual decision there. And then they said even for the games that it does put out, though, Sony's marketing for PSVR2 has a history of being underwhelming. Absolutely agree. It's been one of my biggest criticisms of Sony.
Marketing in general, though. Can we agree? It's like their marketing in general, like for the Portal, for the Vita, for PlayStation 5. It's like they just haven't done a lot of marketing from top to bottom.
This is it. So they said a source at a developer of at least one major PSVR2 release told IGN that Sony would only market their game exclusively with PlayStation blog posts. Any additional marketing had to be done by the developer or the publisher. They quote, "Now, that is the worst business model on the planet right now because the market is so small and no one's really backing it or getting behind it to do AAA games, which are 20, 30 million starting," the source explained. "You're not getting any money back ever. You cannot recoup with the amount of people that have VR right now doing games at that level." So I just want to make this as a broader point. The problem with VR is that there's sort of like a to and fro. When PSVR2 came out, they hadn't sold any headsets and they invested all that into Horizon Call of the Mountain. That was a big gamble. So what they do is they put it out there. There was a kind of soft launch, it felt like, with VR. It wasn't as big as we wanted it to be. And then they're going to kind of wait and see what happens, because based on that, they can then do research and go, based on this investment, these types of games, did Horizon actually sell or did other games sell? And so there are just these different phases where they have to take action and then wait and see, and then they take action and wait and see, and there is a bit of to and froing in that. There is a lot more to the article, but it just basically ends with talking about the number of units sold, and it talks about that nearly 600,000 units were sold within 6 weeks after launch, but now there's questions about did it surpass 1 million, and it goes, on paper that does not sound bad, but Sony reportedly made 2 million PSVR2 headsets before release and reduced shipments a month before release. That's not because it's like that's just like smart business. Like, they have projections, they have to do it, and then based on the market they change accordingly. VR is a tough thing to build. This is the biggest theme.
Yeah.
And the idea that you criticize it, you're basically saying, like, why aren't they making all these AAA games for a VR space that is barely growing? Well, that's exactly it. You've got to build it first, and then you can justify bringing all these AAA games over. And actually, considering how small and how few PSVR2 headsets have been sold, it's pretty astonishing how fucking incredible some of the games are that Sony have fully funded.
Right, and that's again another major problem with this article, is that it's making all these statements and then refuting them by bringing logic into the conversation a little bit later on and saying, "Hey, this is how things work." Well, then that explains everything. Right? I'm of the opinion that Sony never expected to make their money back on Horizon Call of the Mountain. They never expected to. This is a promotional piece. They don't have marketing. They don't have billions of marketing dollars. So what are they going to do? They're going to make a built from the ground up game in VR of one of their most popular franchises. I think it's second highest selling after Gran Turismo. I could be wrong about that. And say, hey, here's a reason to buy the headset and sell it with a game, right? Sell it with a ton of marketing. I don't think they ever expected to make their money back on Call of the Mountain. They probably never will. And I just feel like it's a different way of doing things. And again, I'm not here to defend Sony. I'm really not. I certainly would appreciate more marketing. I would appreciate more transparency. I would appreciate more games. But man, articles like this are just not helping anyone, especially when the focus is so narrow, and they're not really addressing the bigger problems, and not comparing it to other markets. They're not comparing it, like really understanding the industry when they talk about these things. Although simultaneously seeming like they understand the industry by, with some of the things they said later in the article. So it's strangely, it feels like a fluff piece that has some really negative ramifications. People will see this and say, I was interested in PSVR2, and now it sounds like it's DOA and I'm not going to buy it. Right? It's become a self-fulfilling prophecy that the mainstream media has perpetrated for well over a year now. Ever since PSVR2 was first announced, there's been negativity surrounding it. And it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it sucks. It really sucks, because it just means that there are lots of people out there who really enjoy this thing, who are never going to give it a shot because they trust the wrong people, because they don't have the time or energy or interest to look into it for themselves and find out that there's a lot of games they'd like to play. And that's just disappointing to me, because I just feel like the role of a games journalist is to help people navigate those waters, not create massive barriers. And that's exactly what this article did.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say on like the sales figure stuff, and obviously some of the sales figures of projections were like disputed and stuff like that. But historically, trends in tech show that early sales don't always predict the long-term success. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't. And also, it's a different world to when PSVR came out. There's more competition than ever before. And I'm someone that actually believes in the success of VR as a whole. The overall growth of VR adoption, driven by multiple platforms, will benefit PSVR2 as more consumers become interested in VR experiences. There'll be people that try a Quest or get a Quest and go, actually, I've got a PS5. Fuck, I'll get a PSVR2. Look, there are a lot of challenges. Sony fucking know it. That's why there's all these massive shifts happening, not just in VR. VR is a part of the overall experience. And it's why we have to keep making the positive case where the positive case needs to be made. And it is, there's over 170 games. There is literally a game for every person out there who likes VR, obviously. And my biggest point has always been that the majority... there are many amazing VR experiences that are not tied to popular IP. And this was my biggest response to this article, which requires consumers to do heavy digging to find out what those great games are, whether it's watching without Parole reviews or stuff like that. That is not the job. That shouldn't be the job of consumers. It should be the job of the marketing of Sony. And it's especially the job of fucking gaming media institutions.
Right.
They get the codes for games. They have access to it. And I was having chats yesterday with people making absolutely great points, which was how hard it is to find PSVR2 games on the store. Actually, Jorg Tittel from Rapid Eye Movers said a great idea, which was, if you've got a PSVR2 headset, if you're wearing it, it should on the store detect that and then like cater it accordingly. And it's like, that's an absolutely amazing idea that Sony should definitely implement. But it doesn't take away from the fact that a media organization, the scope of their coverage should not be dictated ever by the UI functionality on a console. It's their job to fucking research it. This is what we do. Bryan does it. I do it. A lot of people do it who do this in their free time. All the Gamecats do it. We share experiences and games. And the fact that whenever I watch, these are all shows and people that I like. whether it's Kind of Funny or it's Beyond on IGN and stuff like that, although I can't watch as much of that anymore, when I see every time VR is mentioned, they kind of make snide remarks going, oh, I might play that for 10 minutes. It just perpetuates this culture of negativity where you're not supporting an emerging future of gaming, right, which is excellent. And it's not to say there haven't been bad games. It's not to say there have been games that should have been good at launch and weren't of good quality and had to keep getting patched. It's not to say there weren't games that were a fucking disaster. Firewall Ultra, I love that game for so many reasons, but it was a fucking disaster. And there's been plenty of that as well. So we're not here to say only talk about the good stuff. Right. I'm saying be intellectually honest, because if you're willing to talk about the negative stuff, people are more willing to listen to when you talk about the good stuff as well, right, and vice versa. And that's what we always try and do on this channel and as a community. And that's going to be the last of it.
Well, I do want to say, Myles, that we've sort of dug into certain YouTubers and certain media outlets who shit on PSVR2 without really having done any of the work, done any of the research, played any of the games. Right. And I got to say that, I was watching Last Stand Media recently. I was watching Colin's channel, and Colin was talking about PSVR 2. And I think I'm really, really glad. It sounds like the Gamecat's good out there. It sounds like enough people messaged them and said, listen, PSVR 2 is really good and there's people enjoying it. And, and it was great to be over there, kind of like representing community of people who really enjoy the headset. And I like that their message on, obviously Dustin's kind of a PSVR 2 fan, but Colin says he doesn't think he's played it since it came out. He played it on day one and that was it. But I appreciate the way they talk about PSVR 2 now. It's okay to say, hey, I'm just not into it. I never feel like putting it on. It's not for me, right? Because that's a much different story than, well, there's no games over there. Or there's no games I want to play, when you don't know. You just don't know. And so I actually really appreciate the honesty that's been going on. It's a much more honest discourse about saying, man, the friction is just too high. I never feel like putting it on. That is a great thing to say, because you're saying, hey, I'm just not really into VR, rather than saying, assuming that there's just no good games. And so so shout out to Last Stand for having the balls to just say, it's not for me. That's perfectly acceptable. You don't have to love everything. VR is not for everybody, right? And it's okay. And even better, it's okay to acknowledge when you don't know something. That's all I got to say. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah. No. I just to add to that, it gets to the fact that straw manning is one of my biggest gripes, and that's what we often see is people that aren't interested, they start straw manning. When I have discussions with people, I like to still man. I like to think of the best case scenario of their argument and fight against that. Always assume good intent and always come at it from the positive case, because it's going to make your arguments better. It's also going to make you much more fulfilled. I don't want to live in a world where I'm kind of blinded and sort of lying to myself. I want to see where things can be improved and improve it. And I also want to help share the positive cases so people have positive VR experiences, because there are positive VR experiences to have there. And so when I see a lot of these mainstream networks, if VR is not for all of them, it just becomes a bit of groupthink and they start feeding into each other where they don't even give things a chance anymore. I do think on Kind of Funny, when they were watching the reveal of the Metro game, I think one of them said, oh yeah, can't wait to play for that for 10 minutes. And that was it, and that was all they really commented on it. And it was okay, on the one hand, I'm that's your opinion, but I'm also that kind of disrespects people that are watching the show that would probably like VR. You kind of,
right. It's tough. It's tough, because I think for a lot of people, there is no line between, oh, it's just not something I enjoy, and, oh, it's not good. That line is really blurred for some people. And I've certainly crossed that line when it comes to specific games. But when it comes to an entire platform that clearly lots of people are enjoying, that's a completely different story. Anyway, dude, a couple more tips here. And And I think we're going to play 20 questions and call it
Sure.
a day.
Oh, is it my turn to pick? It's my turn to pick, isn't it?
It's not.
Is it not?
Is it not? I don't know.
No, I was guessing last week.
Okay, then pick a game while I read out some tips here.
I hope I haven't messed that up.
Yeah, whatever. Dude, it gets messed up all the time. I'm sure it's fine. I think I thought that I did.
Oh, do you know what it is? It's because I was presenting last Wednesday instead of the Friday, so you probably are right. On Wednesday, I did.
Well, we didn't do a show this Wednesday, so that means the last time we did 20 questions, I presented. So why don't you present, and then at least it's bouncing back and forth still.
All right, dude. That's good. We got it.
This is everybody's like, what? They're like, this is more thought than anybody should put into a game of 20 questions ever.
But it's important.
Magic the Gamecat. I didn't read Magic's tip yet, right? It's been sitting there for a while. With the €5 says, legacy media trying to keep things status quo. No surprises there. PSVR made me feel like the kid me from the 80s playing C64 for the first time. Man, C64 was so good. Listen, does anybody out there have any connections at Evercade? Because Evercade keeps putting out these cartridges for C64 collections. They've done 3 of them already. And like Bruce Lee was on one. I was like, I fucking forgot about this game, Bruce Lee. They had to call it Lee for legal reasons, right? They couldn't get the Bruce Lee name, right? But dude, the Goonies game on Commodore 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. Definitely in my top 20 of all time. Let's put it that way. It's a great game. I was obsessed with it. I need that on a cartridge. They can call it the Goons if they need to get around the copyright stuff, right? Anybody who has a connection to Evercade, for the love of God, please reach out for me and see if they can make that happen. I will buy the C64 collection number 4. I think I'm only talking to Magic the Gamecat right now. I think everybody else is like, what are you talking about? Fox Die, by the way, the Goonies on C64, much different game than the NES games or the Famicom games. They had Goonies 1 and 2 by Konami, totally different games. The C64 one is so much better. Fox Die Infected with the €2 says, good show, guys, as always. Thank you very much. Good tip, as always. Holy crap, I didn't realize. No, 2 more tips, and then we're good. Macho, the real estate procrastinating Gamecat with the level 2 membership says, HB, was that? Is that an abbreviation for something? HB?
Happy birthday.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday. Sony spending they general VR budget investing in building VR. Dude, I feel like Macho does this to me on purpose too. Him and Grandpa just like to fuck with me, I think. Spending the VR budget investing in building VR. It's all being allocated. So the silver cake pie for marketing. So the sliver for marketing is very limited, plus on the blog. Okay, what Macho is saying is what we were saying before about spending money on making games as part of their marketing strategy. So they have less money to actually spend on marketing with the PlayStation blog. Yeah, and I agree. If Sony had unlimited money, we'd be seeing showcases all the time, I think. Pietrek F with the 25 plantains says, but also truth, Sony is wasting potential of headset. They could bring Last of Us 1, 2, Killzone, Days Gone, hybrid VR versions, and bury the competition. In a world, yeah, I mean, Pietrek F, yes. In a world of infinite money. Clearly.
Because it's not just about their money, it's about consumers' money. There are going to be lots of Quest owners that would fucking love to play those games. They're not just going to go out and buy it. It's fucking expensive. Like it doesn't guarantee like launching them all at once. They cannibalize each other. It needs to be a part of a long-term strategy. Doing one of those games a year, that's going to have a lot more benefit than just launching them all now. So it's not to say you're not saying that, but
listen, Oh, Tommy fucking knows what I'm talking about. He said, not true. C64 is my first computing experience. I'm with you. Thank you. I'm so glad. Magic's played Goonies. Yes. Oh, man. This is why I hang out with you guys, because you're my people. Yeah. So listen, there's not an infinite amount of money. These games clearly cost more to make and bring into VR with all the correct interactions and hands and all that stuff. And also, I think I'd be pretty happy with one hybrid and one built from the ground up, or 2 hybrids every year from Sony. Like either 2 hybrids or one built from the ground up and 1 hybrid every year from Sony. And that's their first party contribution, which means the end of the PSVR2 lifespan, or by the end of the PS5 lifespan, we'd have like lots of exclusives, right? They're not going to bring us in the first year. I mean, they already brought us 2 Resident Evil games in year 1.
They've already done it.
Built from the ground up, Horizon Call of the Mountain and hybrid Gran Turismo 7.
And also, Brian, the whole argument of like how many first parties have there been since launch? I mean, Ryan corrected it because people kept saying, well, there were at launch. No, I mean since launch. What does it fucking matter in the first year if it came out right at the beginning or somewhere in the year? Right. I'd rather them come out as early as possible. So if they just did it at the start of the year and nothing for a year, then that's fucking great. You've had those games for more. Because if they came out later in the year, you'd only had half a year so far. So it's just like, I'm just...
Listen, if we're only at the beginning of year 2, that means over the course of this entire next year, do people really not to expect to see 2 more games from Sony? I mean, like, is that unreasonable? Am I on an island alone here? Like, where I think that 2 first-party games, whether they be hybrid or they be built from the ground up, a year, that's not unreasonable, right? For a headset that only has maybe from first party. Right, you know, and then
I think you've forgotten the moral of the story, Brian, which is Sony seems to have abandoned PlayStation VR2.
It's just never going to happen. It's a shame.
It's been abandoned.
So I mean, listen, I think if people are asking for more than that, if people are asking for more than 2 first-party titles a year for a headset that has 1 million users at the moment, then like, I think you've got to admit to yourself that you're asking for too much. And then, you know, by the end of the lifespan, we're looking at like, you know, 10 hybrids or, you know, 20 hybrids and no built from the ground up games. I don't know. You guys do the math, figure out how many of each you want. But like, I think that's really pretty good support for something like this, you know, AAA games that you can't play anywhere else. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too realistic. Test rate review with the Australian. I was going to say, didn't recognize this name either, and there it is. First super. Test rate review with the $3 Australian says IGN stands for Indie Game Negativity. Great show, guys. Thank you very much. Test rate review. I'm sorry we didn't go through the entire article because we could have talked about it.
We'll link it though. I've tweeted the link promoting the show on Twitter and that, but yeah. I mean, it's on IGN. I'll put it in the chat now. Okay. Definitely check it out.
All right. So you did pick a game for 20 questions then? We're good on that?
I'm ready to go, Brian.
Excellent. Yeah. Guys, it's time for a little more lightheartedness here.
Skiva's in the chat. Hey, Skiva.
Oh, Skiva. Skiva sent me a DM on Discord like 2 hours ago, and I still haven't actually looked at it. Just got the little notification up. All right, man. Well, I have a little notepad file here. I'm going to request all the help I can possibly get from you guys in the chat. 20 questions time. Myles picked a PSVR1 or PSVR2 game, and it's up to us using only 20 yes or no questions and 6 minutes on the clock to figure out what PSVR1 or PSVR2 game that is. On your mark. Get Des. Go. Myles, is this game on PSVR2?
It is indeed.
Generic question. Was it also on PSVR 1?
No.
Okay. PSVR 2. Was this also on other headsets like Quest or Steam, that kind of stuff?
Oh, Jesus Christ! You've really come in with the tricky ones.
Well, you know, all that matters are PSVR 2 exclusives, so I figured you would have been aware of this answer.
Yeah, it's been on other systems.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's tap into the chat here. Silver Nexus asks, is it a launch title or was it a launch title?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a launch title.
Okay.
I mean, there weren't any launch titles, to be honest. But...
Zimtalk is asked. No, that's not Zimtalk. Sorry. Hi, Zimtalk. Brandon is asking if it's a roguelite.
No, it's not.
This eliminates half the catalog.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Is there a lot of shooting of guns in this game?
No, there is not a lot of shooting of guns, Brian.
Okay.
Number 6. That's 6.
Okay, that means it's not Light Brigade. That means it's not Breachers. Can't be Wanderer Silver Nexus because it's on PSVR2 and that's not out yet. Looper is wondering, are there puzzles or is it a puzzle heavy game?
I wouldn't. I'm not going to say no.
Okay.
That's 7, which is also the number of people that have bought PSVR2 and are happy with their purchase, supposedly. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Are you in a vehicle of any kind in this game?
No, that's
Okay.
8.
Good question, River Living. Is it multiplayer? Or
No,
okay.
That's 9.
Wow. Okay, so single player. It's not a roguelite. It wasn't a launch title. Not a lot of shooting guns. Not a lot of puzzles. Not in a vehicle of any kind. Did this game come out this year in 2024?
No, it didn't, Brian.
You like how I specified what year this was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that because it is 2024.
It is indeed. No lies detected. Okay, so we eliminated a launch in 2024, which brings us down to about.
Do you want to ask about things that it is instead of what it's not?
I'm trying. Gamecat Photo Nutter asks if it's cartoony.
It is indeed, Brian. 11.
Finally, we know something about this game. It's cartoony.
This is the turning point.
Okay.
Love the chat.
Okay, before I ask this question, I want to say this. Before your eyes. And now I want to ask, Myles, has this game been mentioned on today's show?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, that eliminates a lot of games too.
12.
Is this a sports type game? Even esports, regular sports, any kind of sports?
No, Brian, it's not. 13.
Dude, I don't think we're gonna get this one. Now Jurassic World Silver Nexus was not only cartoony, it was a launch title. No, but it is cartoony. This game is cartoony, and it was available on other headsets, and it's on PSVR 2, but not PSVR 1. It can't be Moss, Your Long Shadows, because Moss was on PSVR 1. Jurassic Park was a launch title. Gorn was not a launch title, TGK, but it was on PSVR 1. Tentacular was a launch title. Man, you guys are lots of good suggestions, but we're Kayak VR Mirage was a launch title, wasn't it? Oh, it was also not cartoony. Sorry, Myles, is this game still on the PlayStation Store?
Yeah, it's a good. I don't want you to have that one, but it's still on the store.
Okay, so it's not a Midnight Works game. Okay, okay, so it's cartoony. It's been on other headsets, and it's not on PSVR 1. Is there platforming in this game?
No, there's not, Brian. 15.
Is there creative element?
No, 16.
Okay. Man. Do you work for the people who made this game?
No, 17.
That eliminates 2 more. Oh God. Is it scary?
No.
Oh my God.
Not in the way that you're thinking.
But, sorry, Albert. It can't be Among Us because it's not. Because Among Us is. Yeah. Oh man.
You're on 18. 2 more, Brian.
Oh my God. I only got 20 questions as well.
It's 20, then the guess, right? Or does the 20th have to be the guess?
Yeah, 20th has to be one of the guess, or the guess has to be one of the questions. Myles, I'm out of time, so I'm just going to guess. Is it Borderbots?
It is not Borderbots, Brian.
Oh, what is it? Oh my goodness.
Massive congrats to River Living 02 who got it. It is Koi Koi VR Love Blossoms.
I'm fucking done. I quit.
A beautiful game about love blossoming. And just reading the description on the website, please be advised as this title contains sexual expressions equivalent to category D rating, but DLC for the PC version.
Say D rating?
As well as additional features for adults are not applicable. Yeah.
Myles, I chose to believe that this game doesn't exist.
Oh, it does exist. It does exist indeed.
Only in your imagination and on your YouTube channel. Nowhere else.
People saying I made that up. I did not make it up.
No, it's real. It's real. And you should go watch. Myles be really uncomfortable for like 90 minutes straight while he plays this game on his YouTube channel. It's there.
It just teaches about love and gardening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to bring such a downer at the end of the show. It's been a good show. But, I thought if people are searching...
The whole show's been negative.
Well, no, we've been talking about, we've been making the case for PSVR2, and so what better way than when we do 20 questions, it could be any PSVR2 game or PSVR. So we've got to choose one that really waves the flag. Koi. Koi indeed.
Wow.
There we go.
Wow. Hey, everybody, make sure you go check out Myles' channel, because if you haven't heard of a game that we've talked about, I guarantee you he's played it. The source of all PSVR2 games is youtube.com/Myles. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody who makes this channel run. Our moderators are amazing. We got Rypop, who puts this thing up on podcast services of your choice. Brody, the Gamecat Army General, who puts timestamps into the show after the fact. All my moderators are amazing. Thank you so very much, you guys. Everyone who supports the channel financially, whether that be over on patreon.com/withoutparolegames, over here by being a member. Also, everybody who tips during the show, everybody who hangs out, everybody who shoots the shit and keeps us entertained as we try to keep you entertained. Everybody who sits back and watches the show and doesn't say a goddamn word, we know you're out there. And we love you just as much. Happy Friday, Myles.
Happy Friday, Brian. Happy Friday, Gamecats. Thanks for tuning in. It's been good. Do hit the like button on the way out. Love you all.
Let's go. Oh my goodness, Myles.
What, Brian?
You know it's Friday, and so that means clip of the week. You know that, right?
Oh shit! Have we got one?
Here's a link to it, so you can watch it as ready. And so this one comes to us from Rachel Gamecat 5863. Here we go. Let's check this out. I absolutely love this. Where the hell is it? There it is. Let's go.
Amazing. How have I not seen that?
Dude, because obviously, like when you're playing the game, right, and it's clearly an animation of a bunch of zombies outside the window.
Yeah.
I don't remember the door ever being open for me to go check it out for myself.
That allows you to do that. That's amazing.
Must be. And I always thought that animation was kind of funny because it's like 4 frames of animation of some shadowy zombies outside the window.
I do like the animation though in the game. I thought it was cool in the mall and stuff. Yeah.
But I thought that was really funny. So thank you for sharing that, Rachel. If you have a clip of the week, if you have something funny or interesting that happened to you during a PSVR2 game, make sure you go over to our Discord, click the link in the description below, and leave the video in Clip of the Week channel to be featured on next Friday's show. Let's get out of here, Myles.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.